Schwartzstein, Millay, Toth, and Levine. Am I right? All right, well then let's not hold back here and let's get going. Michelle, you're good? Where are you here? Yes, there you are. Okay. All right, I'm going to kick us off then. Good evening and welcome to the May 17th, 2021 meeting of the City of Summit Zoning Board of Adjustment. My name is Stephen Spur, and I'm chairman of the Summit Zoning Board. In accordance with New Jersey Statute 10:4-10, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to a newspaper of record and has been posted here in City Hall. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to the issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. This meeting is being conducted virtually via video conferencing in lieu of meeting in this council chamber at Summit City Hall, Summit, New Jersey. This meeting is being live streamed to the city's YouTube page. In addition, members of the public can view and participate in the meeting by following the link provided on the agenda. Members of the public may also submit written comments and questions to the zoning board secretary in advance of the meeting to be read aloud during the meeting. Such written comments shall not be considered testimonial and shall not be considered by the board in its determination on any application. Individuals wishing to provide testimony as to any application must participate virtually with both audio and video enabled. Andy Ball is the zoning board's attorney. He will advise board members on matters of law and is the key interface with an applicant's attorney. Mr. Ball does not vote on the applications. Chris Nicola is a city employee and is the zoning board secretary. Mr. Nicola works with applicants on getting their applications together, planning our agendas, and keeping our meeting minutes. Mr. Nicola also does not vote on the applications. Our board consists of 7 regular members and up to 4 alternates. All members can participate in the hearings tonight, but a maximum of 7 can vote. Most applications require a simple majority to be approved. Some applications require 5 affirmative votes to be approved. You'll be told which majority will be required before we begin our deliberations. Mr. Nicola, will you please call the roll of members?
Sure. Chairman Spur?
Here.
Vice Chairwoman Newell?
Here.
Mr. Yuko is excused. Mr. Steiner?
Here.
Mr. Mullen?
Here.
Ms. Schwartzstein?
Here.
Mr. Millay?
Here.
Mr. Loikitz?
Here.
Ms. Toth?
Here.
Ms. Sager is excused, and Dr. Levine?
Here.
All right, you have a quorum, you can proceed.
Excellent. We generally hear the cases in the order they are listed on the agenda. We try to have each hearing last no more than 30 minutes, but we do understand that some cases are too complex to be heard within this time frame. Each hearing begins with the applicant or their attorney giving an overview of the application and the variances that are required. We then hear from any expert witnesses and the applicant may have to help explain the application and why the variances are needed. The board members may ask questions of the applicant, their attorney, and the expert witnesses. Once the board members and the board professionals are done with their questioning, the public will have an opportunity to ask questions. This is not the time to tell us what you think about this case. That opportunity comes at the end of the hearing. Before you ask your questions, we need to know who you are and where you live. It is important that our court reporter be able to keep a clear and accurate public record. Please state your name before speaking or asking a question. And please do not talk over each other. This is even more important under the current circumstances. After all witnesses have been heard, members of the audience have their second opportunity to speak. And at that time, you may express your opinion, positive or negative, about the application. Then the public hearing is closed and we go into executive session where the board members discuss the case and vote. You'll be able to listen to our executive session, but you will not normally be able to participate in the discussion. Most applications are heard and decided in the same evening. If a case requires additional information or testimony that cannot be presented tonight, we will carry your case to another date, and it will not be decided tonight. Krista Anderson, the city zoning officer, has asked that I remind all applicants that they must read carefully the resolution that documents the zoning board's decision and to pay particular attention to the conditions contained in the resolution. For example, if a landscaping plan is required, you must obtain one and submit it to John Linson, the city's forester. If a grading plan is required, you must have one prepared by a civil engineer and submit 3 copies along with the application fee to the city's engineering division. Failure to satisfy all conditions in a resolution will result in a delay in approving your application, as it will cause extra work for city zoning staff. The resolutions documenting the board's decision will normally be available 1 month after we decide the case. When I call your name, please tell me how many witnesses you have and whether you think you can complete your case within 30 minutes. First on the agenda is 22 Huntley Road, Slavica and Pritam Dodeja.
Dodeja.
Deja. All right, close enough. Do you have an attorney with you today, or you'll be representing yourself?
So our architect is joining. I believe he's on, Mark Stefanelli. And
Mark.
Hello, Mark. And my father, I think he may be in the lobby, is also trying to join. His name is Om Prakash Dodeja. So if you wouldn't mind letting him in, it's no problem if you can't.
I don't see anybody left in the lobby. There's one phone number that did dial in, but
Okay.
Okay, wonderful. Then, yep, we'll hear you first. Let's just want to check in with the other applicants real quick. Second is Purvi Maniar and Samir Patel on Bellevue Avenue.
Hi.
Oh, hello.
Hi.
Yeah.
We have our architect with us here today, Michael Chiarella, and our civil engineer, Michael Juris.
Michael and Michael. Okay, you got it. All right. Third on the agenda tonight is Lisa and Daniel Kessler, 1 Garden Road.
Yes,
Hello.
we're here.
Hello.
Hi.
You have an attorney or any expert witnesses with you tonight?
We have our architect here, Janet Siegel.
All right. Very good. And then fourth and final is Arlene Goldman, 11 Cromwell Parkway. Arlene,
Hi, I'm here and I have my architect and planner, Thomas Singer, and he's here with us tonight.
Okay. All right. Well, Arlene, hang in. You're fourth on the docket, so we'll get through the other 3 and then we'll hear from you and your architect and planner. Thank you so much. All right. So let's start at the top, back up to 22 Huntley Road. Mr.
All right, so I'll
Ball,
start.
we're going to swear you in first, and then we'll let you present your case briefly. Yep.
Right, and could you each raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And then one at a time, if you could please state your name, spell your last name for the record.
My name is Pritam Dodeja. Last name is Dodeja.
And then Slavica, do you plan on testifying?
Sure.
We'll swear you in anyways if you'd like to interject. So just, I think, what we need your name and your name spelled.
Yes.
Yep.
So just your name and yeah.
So the first name Slavica and the last name is Dodeja.
Okay. Just in case you want to jump in and offer any testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you. And just before we get into the application, there is one just slight procedural defect I want to go through. Chris, do you have the application that you're able to bring up on the screen?
yeah, hold on.
Okay.
Get us off the planning board, Chris. That's scary.
Yeah.
Look at that.
All right.
All right, and what you're looking at now, can you see the third and the signature page of your application?
Yes,
And is that in fact your signature down at the bottom there?
it is.
All right, perfect, thank you. Just as a note, it wasn't notarized, but since you're sworn in now, you're confirming that's your signature, we are good to proceed.
Cool.
Thank you,
All
Andrew.
right. So before we hand it over to your architect, who I hope will likely do the heavy lifting, if you can just tell us a little bit about the application, and then we'll get Mark to work.
Sure. So first of all, thanks for the time. We really appreciate it. So we moved here 7 years ago when we had one child, Aria, and she was 6 months old. Since then, our family has grown. She's now 7.5, and we have a 5-year-old boy as well. And we're definitely hitting the limits of what we can do with the house. As you can see, we're right now in Aria's her remote classroom. And, space is definitely a constraint. There's not, they're usually chasing me around the house and there's not enough places to hide. So that's a problem that we're trying to rectify. Over the course of these 7 years, we've really gotten to know our neighbors, and it's a great neighborhood, and we've seen it evolve. When we moved in, there weren't any kids on the block. Everybody was pretty much an original owner from when the houses were built in the 50s and 60s, but now it's changed. So pretty much every family that's moved in has at least 1 or 2 children. They're always playing out front, and it's just a joyous neighborhood. It's an amazing neighborhood, and we're very committed to it. And we are a close family. So my brother-in-law lives with us, and my mother-in-law visits from Europe, so she stays a few months at a time. We also have deep professional roots to the community. Both of us work at Celgene and BMS. So I started in 2005, and Slavica started in 2009. So we value the community, and we value the short commute that we have. We value the great schools in Summit, and we value most of all the friendships that we've built over the years. So we hope that, you will consider our application with that bit of background. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mark, who's our architect.
Thank
Mark.
you. Any quick question for 1 sec, Mark, before we jump to you? Any questions from members of the board or professionals for the applicant? Otherwise, we'll jump to the architect. Seeing head shaking, no. Okay. All right. Let's swear in Mark, and then we can let him dig in.
Great. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name.
Okay, it's Mark Stefanelli, Stefanelli.
Thank you. And would you briefly describe your background, experience, and 3 boards you've appeared before aside from Summit?
Sure. Graduate of NJIT, May of '88. I've been a licensed architect for approximately 16 years. I have presented before many planning boards and Board of Adjustments, including Summit. Also Hackensack, Rutherford, Lyndhurst, North Arlington, various other towns. And my office is currently located at 375 Murray Hill Parkway in East Rutherford.
Thank you. Any questions from the board, or would you like to accept his credentials at this point?
We'll accept your credentials. Welcome back, Mark. You can dig in. Go for it.
Okay, first, I would like to share my screen. I just want to make sure there's no problem with that. Hit my share screen button.
For it. Just if you can make any note of anything that's not already entered into the record, but
okay.
Otherwise, it's great.
Okay, can everyone see the site plan that is on the screen right now?
We can, if you could zoom in a bit, at least for me.
Okay.
I don't know how everyone else is.
I'll definitely zoom in. I just want to make sure you can see it.
Yep.
Okay, so let me get this full. All right, great. And then I can zoom. Hold on 1 second. Okay. Just want to make sure I can zoom in. Hold on. Here we go. Zoom. I can start zooming. Wait, hold on 1 second. Let me do it a different way. Excuse me 1 second. Just let me get my other document up. Okay, here we go. Okay, so we are here tonight to present a new 2nd floor addition with a new 1-car garage on an existing ranch style home with 3 small bedrooms, 1 bathroom on the 1st floor, and 1 bedroom and 1 bathroom in the basement that needs some upgrading. The neighborhood is a very nice neighborhood with houses that have similar footprints and similar lots. As you can see here, the house is located on Huntley Road, number 22, lot 25. But the first thing I would like to point out before we get into the presentation, as you can see, let me zoom in a little bit more. So I just want to bring everybody to the attention of the site that this lot that we are discussing tonight tapers towards the rear and is slightly narrower than the average adjacent lots. I did a little calculation. The average adjacent lots in the neighborhood have a rear width of about 67 feet. We have a width at the rear of 60 feet, as you can see here, 60.58. This is relevant because the narrowness of the lot is contributing to the side yard setback we are asking for this evening. Another thing I would like to point out is on the engineer's survey, which I will bring up. Nope, wrong one. Here we go. So as you can see on the engineer's survey, another unique, well, it's kind of typical in the neighborhood, but this lot basically has about 24 feet in the back of the lot that has an extreme slope. This is relevant because it basically limits the area of any accessory buildings or additions or even area for entertainment or play area for the kids. So the house is located centrally in this location, and we have about 4.85 on the left, and I think a little over 22 on the right. Okay, so I just want you to keep that in mind for as I go through my presentation. So I'd like to present the neighborhood. Now, the neighborhood, it's a very nice neighborhood. It's got beautiful lawns. It's got well-kept properties. The people in this neighborhood really take care of their property. And as you can see, this is the house that we are speaking of tonight, 22 Huntley, which is located right here. And the neighborhood also has been improved, which is also important. The neighborhood has been improved. These are very standard small ranches. And as you can see to the left, there's been a two-story improvement, 18 Huntley. On the right, not so much. We have standard ranch homes on the right. A little bit further down the street on the left, we have 7 Huntley, which has a two-story addition and modern finishes to the front. And on the right, 36 Huntley, we have a two-story addition with an additional 2-car garage. Now, I don't know if I'm assuming that these houses were built all the same. I can't verify that these were additions. I'm just telling you that there are 2-story additions and 2-story houses on the lot. One, for example, is directly across the street. This is the house that was directly across the street, and this is what the house looks like now. So just bringing it to the board's attention that this is a growing neighborhood that is putting money into their houses, improving their houses, bringing them up to today's standards. And that is basically what my client wants to do with their residents.
This appears to be photographs that were not submitted to the board prior.
You're correct.
We need to verify those, get the dates, when they were taken, who took them, all the wonderful things that Mr. Ball will tell you.
Absolutely. So these are basically these are Google images, except for this one here. This one was taken today. And it's on sheet P. It's called sheet P. And I put it together this afternoon just to represent the neighborhood.
And do those photos fairly and accurately depict the conditions of those homes as listed on that sheet?
Yes, I have been to the neighborhood, and yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So now let's talk about the house that the Dodijas currently have. It is, as you heard, Mr. Dodija, my client has 2 children and an extended family, which he welcomes frequently, and they stay from time to time. The house currently has no garage, 3 small first-floor bedrooms, and limited area on the lot for entertainment and his children to play. The location of the current basement stair, which is right here, limits the size of the kitchen, the dining area, and also the living room. The area they currently have to gather is an existing family room in the back, which they would like to improve with better windows, higher ceiling, and better access to the backyard. The overall project will bring the existing house up to today's standards, fit in and increase the property values of the expanding neighborhood that you currently see. The basement has, let's see, I have the basement plan right here. This is the existing basement. There is a room in the back. Sometimes they use it as a bedroom. We're going to talk tonight about upgrading these windows to make it a bedroom with egress access. And there's a laundry room, and we're knocking down some closets and expanding the basement for additional storage and play area for the kids. And we're also relocating the stair from this area to this area, and there's an existing bathroom in the basement now. So now I'll go to the, I'm going to come back to the zoning chart once I describe, I know that's something that we need to talk about, but I just want to get the overall project described, and then I will come back to the zoning chart. As you can see from the site plan, this is the existing house, and this is our garage and den addition, which, I forgot to mention. So let's talk about the new floor plan. The new floor plan, I'm going to scroll down to the next page now. Sorry, still getting used to this thing. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so here is the new floor plan that we are proposing this evening. The new floor plan has a new centrally located stair, as you can see. A new open floor plan, which incorporates the living room, the dining room, and the family room and the kitchen all together. Kind of gives it more of an open flow, which is more of a modern feel. And there's a new guest bedroom towards the front. There used to be 3 small bedrooms over here. Now we have a dining room, a bedroom, and a bathroom. Before there were 3 bedrooms that shared 1 bath. Now we have a guest room with its own bathroom and a small powder room off the dining room. The addition itself is right here on the side. It's a 13 and change, 13'6" addition, which incorporates a 1-car garage, modest 253 square feet, 12 by 20 garage, and then a small den / mudroom in the back of that, which is off the kitchen and off a small area where the kids can play and access the den, which is also another little area off the kitchen. We are incorporating a colonial feature, which is a new covered porch. There's also some very nice front yards in this area. So the client has expressed an interest in, sitting on the front porch, viewing the neighborhood and watching his children play in the front. So we have a covered porch in the front, new garage, new den, and actually we're expanding this patio also because it was very awkward before. It had 2 little slabs. So we have a patio on the left and a patio on the right, and a new guest bath and a new guest bedroom. So if we go to the second floor, which is the new addition on the second floor, the second floor has 2 decent sized bedrooms, common bathroom with a tub, central staircase in the middle with a open to below, nice master suite with master bath and ample closets, and also a second laundry room on the second floor. There's also a small spiral staircase, which leads up to a small attic. And the attic space underneath the roof, the attic space will have a small area of about 84 square feet with collar ties at 6'11". So it's really not even a totally livable space. It's got 6'11" collar ties. It's got about 84 square feet, and the 5-foot area around the roof is about 414 square feet, which is less than 35% of the floor below and not recognized as, quote unquote, a half a story. And the 84 square feet of the non-livable area, 7 feet above, will contribute to about 1.1% to the FAR variance that we are seeking tonight. We are seeking 3 variances tonight: side yard setback, building coverage, and FAR. Before we get to that, I will show you the elevations. So we are a 2-story structure. The basement is pretty much underground, as you can see. So we are a 2-story structure. And again, according to my calculations, the attic is not really counted as a half story due to the floor area. We have incorporated many colonial details, such as, horizontal siding, some shakes or shingles, asphalt roof, dormers, balconies, covered front porch, double hung windows with grills, some window headers, trying to make it very traditional. It even has a stone base along the front with some lattice along the porch. So we're trying to create a very traditional colonial house that would fit into Summit. I've worked in Summit years ago, and I am familiar with all the big old colonials that are around town. It's a very traditional town, and I'm trying to bring that back to this house. We are expanding it, bringing it up to today's modern living, but also trying to keep that traditional colonial look, but yet modernize it. This is the family room in the back that we are proposing to increase the ceiling height, increase the windows, bring in a lot more light from 3 sides. Okay. Now, I'll go back to the zoning chart. Now that you know what the project is. So the various letters have some comments on the zoning chart. I'm going to tell you what I have presented here. So the lot area is 7,800 square feet. Miss Krista Anderson questioned that in one of her letters, and I did have a conversation with her on the phone. And as you can see here, it's very small, but the area of the lot is 7,800 square feet. So she confirmed that and said, okay, just bring that up at the meeting. So that's what I'm doing. She had questioned whether or not the 78 was accurate, because all the coverage numbers are based on that 78. So the survey does indicate that. The lot width required is 60. We have 70. Now I have a number of 70.2, which is also relevant for the side yard setback, which I took it at the 25-foot yard setback, which is the requirement. So at the 25-foot yard setback, I have a number of 70.2. Ms. Anderson had slightly different number, but that's what I came up with: 25 feet, 70.2, and that's the number I based my side yard setback on. The only correction I may make here is, let's look at the side yard setback. So 8-foot minimum, both 33% of the lot width, which would be 23.33. The existing house is about 5 and 23.08. It's actually, I kind of rounded up. It's actually 4.83. Just want to bring that to your attention, but I rounded it off to 5. So we have 10.13 on the right for our new addition, and 5 feet, which gives you 10.13. So both come up to 21.6, which is a combined setback variance because you are looking for 33%. We are at 21.6. The building coverage, 20% max. The existing house was about 18.6. And with the addition, we are at 23.5. So we'll be asking for a variance for that. The FAR is includes the first floor without the garage. It includes the second floor, and it includes that 84 square feet in the attic. Your FAR maximum is 35%, which is 2730. And according to my first review of the FAR, I am at 35.5%. which is only 0.5% above the maximum at 2764, only 34 square feet or so above the maximum FAR. There is one of the letters tonight that address that, which we will discuss in a moment. Lot coverage, 40% maximum, we're at 37.4. And the building height, 35-foot maximum, I'm at 29.5. So those two are within the requirements. Here's how I calculated the coverage. So the existing house, 1382, proposed 1357, the new addition, 381, new covered porch. So we get a number of 1835 for the new building coverage. And then the lot coverage, which is everything else, which is the building, plus the rear concrete patio, the front walkway, the driveway, air conditioning, another concrete patio, and the front porch and the side asphalt walkway. So we have 37.4, which is within the 40% max. If I come over here, I just put on the drawing the definition of half story, and also I think I have the definition of FAR. My understanding of the FAR was the sum of all the gross horizontal areas above grade measured from the exterior face of the exterior walls or from the center line of walls constructed on the common lot line separating the two dwellings. Now, my understanding was that it was floor area ratio. In my experience, floor area ratio has to do with the amount of square footage that a house has. Brought to my attention that the floor area ratio has to do with, even though the second floor has many open to belows, it also has to do with the second floor, basically an invisible line out to the exterior of the house and including that square footage. It was my understanding that floor area ratio reflects on the area of floor. Krista Anderson brought that to my attention, and in her letter, she has increased my floor area ratio to 43%. So we can talk about that.
And Mark, let me just jump in for 1 second.
Sure.
Here. Can you scroll back up to that definition?
Sure.
Because I was just pulling it up quickly. I think, unless I'm looking at the wrong thing here, I believe that definition that you have noted there is actually the non-residential floor area definition. If you were to be looking at the code, floor, oh, no.
I got it out of the DOR, the DOR?
DRO, yep, okay.
DRO, sorry.
I do see the residential. Okay, never mind. Floor area ratios below that. It's a separate definition, but that is correct for floor area. Sorry about that.
Okay, so that is basically, you know, I had a number of just minimal 35.5 going over the FAR, and as you can see over here on my chart here, it shows what we included. The first floor without the garage, 1490. The second floor, 1190, and the attic above 7 feet, 84, so 2764. And that's where I got the 35.5%. So basically, that's the presentation of the floor plans. I'd be willing to take questions at this point if you have any other areas you would like me to address.
Just top of my mind, and Mr. Tower, then we'll kind of defer to you, is when it comes to the FAR variance request, are you asking for 35.5 or 43.4? I don't want you to get bound up at some later permitting process with.
Well, if, you know, I understand we need to abide by Ms. Krista Anderson's interpretation of the code. I'm just telling you how I got there. So if the interpretation of the code is correct, as per Krista Anderson, that would mean that that would mean that this area here is included in the FAR. And also that would mean that this area here is included in the FAR. So again, I took the FAR to mean the floor area that was on the second floor. according to the definition of FAR, she's saying that it goes to the exterior wall. So for all intents and purposes tonight, unless the board has a different opinion, we will be asking for the 43.4% that Ms. Krista Anderson has acknowledged on her letter to the board.
Okay.
Unless
that would hold also for the side yard percentages that you were going to ask for her number, just to be clear, so we know what we're discussing.
It's a good point. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe I have a width of 21.3. She's saying that we have 20% side yard setback. I'm at 21.3% of the width. She's saying that we have 20% of the width. So actually, my number is a little higher. So I don't know how you want to do that. My number is 21.3%. And if you take the let me talk about the second floor. So the second floor, we set in, as you can see here, we set the second floor in 5 feet. And this is important because the first floor is at 4.8 feet. So we did not want to extend a non-conforming condition. So we moved the second floor in 5 feet so we would abide by the 8-foot minimum. So that's pretty important to me because we did that. We conceded the first floor, moved it in 5 feet. So that means the second floor, my number is 25.8% of the width. She has a number of 24.33% of the width. She has 20 and 24. The first floor 20%, second floor 24.33. I have 21.3 and 25.8. So whichever would be the worst condition, I would imagine. I guess.
Okay.
21.
It's just it's the practice of the board to have great confidence in Ms. Anderson's calculations. Did you have an opportunity to discuss the discrepancies with her?
Yes, I did. And she said that she took the, let's see, where's my site plan? She used a number of 70.4. I used a number of, she used a number of 74 feet. I used a number of 70.2. So if you would like to, I think with all due respect to Ms. Chris Anderson, if you want to use the number of 74, we can use her numbers. And that would be fine. It's just that I don't want to, in either case, regardless, I'm still asking for 10.13 and 4.8 on the left with an 8-foot setback on the left and 10.13 on the right. If we need clarification from Ms. Anderson, we can do that, but those are the numbers I'm asking for and the combined side yard setback.
Andy is the drafter. Andy is the drafter of our resolution. So Andy, do you understand what we're working off of here?
Yeah, and I think, obviously, usually we defer to Krista. I think we have the raw numbers here. As long as everyone's on the same page that those are indeed the numbers that they're asking for as far as the side yards are concerned, then we could always just note it as a condition. Normally my recommendation is go with the worst number, which in this case would be the applicant's number, noting that the actual numbers that they've used are what came up to that calculation, and just have them confer with the zoning officer to be sure that the exact percentages are correct. If it winds up being less intrusive, then we can always amend that in the resolution, but we're not cutting them short here tonight.
Thank you very much. That's kind of what I was talking about. Thank you.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, everyone. All right, Mr. Dower, let's go to you first. What's on the top of your mind for the architect here?
All right.
The questions would be just the discrepancy between what's on the engineering plans and what's on the architectural plans as far as lot coverage. Is that that's what the engineer used to design his seepage pit?
Yes, and again, I can only tell you what I calculated. So do you want me to bring up the engineering drawing? I do have it. I do have it on my computer. I can bring it up for everyone to see. The engineer is not with us this evening. Anything that needs to be addressed she would have to,
What I would recommend is that we use the more conservative number, which would be the larger number, and design the seepage pit to that number. And I did also discuss with the engineer that there, as far as their design, they're using 2 inches of runoff, that the city uses 3 inches. So I would recommend that as a condition that we defer to the larger number for impervious coverage, and then also the 3 inches in design for the seepage pit.
thank you, that sounds fair.
Is it appropriate, Mr. Dower, to have a stormwater management plan submitted? Do you expect this, some substantial change after the new calculations are processed?
Not really. It's minor, but it still should be the correct number that we're going to use. And again, the conservative one would be, regardless of whether or not it's the architects or the engineers, the conservative one for the sizing, and then also for the design for the 3 inches of runoff would be what I recommend.
Great. Andy, you got all this? All right, awesome.
Yep.
Just for the record, the house, where it says here, existing impervious coverage, the house is correct. And the drivers are correct. He does have a slightly, the engineer has a slightly different number for the total impervious coverage, but the actual house, and I think the driveway, I think is correct, but for some reason they got a different number for the total impervious.
Any questions from members of the board for the architect? Search the screen here. If you have your hand raised, just hop off mute. Go ahead, Claire. Yep, sorry.
You had mentioned earlier you were going to address the basement and the windows in the basement for the bedroom. So can we
Yes,
cover
thank
that
you.
as well?
Yes, thank you. Let's see, site plan. Getting used to maneuvering around the screen. So the basement as it currently exists, again, there was a stair here and there's a room in the back that sometimes the kids will sleep, or sometimes I think they have a guest sleep down there. But right now there are 2 windows that are not considered egress. So I know that's a concern. If we want to keep this as a bedroom, we would propose on the final documents, here I have a little picture of something like this. I mean, this is, my only concern is that people don't fall in. So we would either have to have a railing or a grate that just lifts up as you come out the window. So we would propose an egress window in one of those openings for that bedroom to legalize it. An egress window has to be on the ground floor has to be 5.07 square feet, 3 foot deep well. But if you do have that, you need a ladder, which is shown there. And also I would just be careful, since we are calling out an area for the kids to play, we would probably either put a railing on it or some sort of grill protection. But it's not on the plans, but this would be proposed on the construction document. You can make that a stipulation if you like.
Okay, great.
Okay.
That sounds good. Claire, anything else? I don't know if you had an opportunity to see, there was a late breaking historic preservation commentary. I don't know if you saw that in your email.
Well, I did see that, and we aren't the design police.
I'm going to take that quote back to my wife at home. Anyway, sorry, we've had this discussion before. Okay, fair enough. Any other members? David, I saw you hop off of mute. What do you got?
Yeah, I just want to understand the thought process behind the design. I noticed, we're doubling the square footage of the house, which is of course a substantial addition, and we have an FAR accession here, and it seems like there's some space incorporated to the FAR calculation that isn't necessarily going to be full living space. It's just more a lot of air with high ceilings. So I was wondering what other design alternatives you considered before arriving at the final design with this level of FAR.
Well, like I said, when I designed the original floor plan, I thought we were very conservative. I thought we were within, 1% I thought we were within 1% of the FAR, 35.5. When you do take into consideration the open to below, that's what puts us at the 43. So in my mind, I designed it pretty conservatively. You know, the attic is the roof is very low, so there's really no space in the attic. The thought process for that family room is basically that's the only room that they have right now where they do hang out, and they wanted to improve that family room and create a higher ceiling, a lot more light, better access, and also an overlook from the second floor to keep an eye on what's going on downstairs while they're upstairs. So that was kind of a very nice feature of the house we tried to incorporate. You know, again, it's a modern feel. Some cathedral ceilings gives it a nice modern feel. You'll have a little open to below as you're coming down the stairs, a nice window to look out the front. So basically that was my thought process, to give them a nice cathedral ceiling, nice big open room, because that's the room that they're going to hang out in the most.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm just trying to weigh in my mind, you know, the design, FAR accession with the scale of the overall neighborhood.
So Preetham here, may I just have a comment?
Sure.
So another factor here for us is we do drive electric cars, and we do want to put solar panels up there, and having that roof higher up will prevent the blockage. It'll help us maximize the south facing space on that roof. So that'll also help. Whereas if we were lower, we would get the shadow from the front, from the trees, as well as from the structure in the front.
Good evening, this is Timmy.
Hi, Timmy. It's Maria from A4.
Sorry, if you're not speaking, if you keep yourself mute, but okay, it's interesting addition. I have to say, the Environmental Commission would likely be happy to hear of the addition of solar panels to the roof. I don't know, David, how you feel about that as some kind of offset to the additional FAR?
Well, it certainly is a benefit given all the strains on Summit's power grid.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, and please note that the garage itself, it's a one-car garage, is on one of the plans we have an electric charger. We're going to incorporate an electric charger for Mr. DiDigio. Has purchased an electric vehicle, so we want to have an indoor electric charger, which is also good for the environment.
Okay, any other questions from members of the board?
I'm looking at Krista's comment about this 7-foot area. How would that work? That, yeah, I mean, you'd still have that unless you lower the roof in that area. I don't understand how that works, and how, even if we could do it.
What are we referring to right now?
Her comment number 3 for the 43 point, the plans could be revised to eliminate the area above the family room. It's how do you eliminate that?
I think she was talking about lowering the roof down. I guess the definition is a 7-foot height. So she was saying something about lowering the roof down to eliminate some of the area above the family room.
And would that adversely affect what you're planning to do with the overlook from the second floor and your solar panels?
Yes.
And
yes, sort of.
how?
We did want to incorporate the overlook from the second floor. So when Mr. and Mrs. DiDigio are on the second floor, they can still see what's happening downstairs just by coming to this area here and looking down into the family room where perhaps the kids are.
You're not sharing your screen, so we really can't see what you're pointing to.
Oh, I'm not?
No, you're not.
Sorry. I don't know how that happened. Sorry about that. Can you see it now?
Yeah, now we can.
Okay. Thank you for telling me. Again, so this area is the overlook from the second floor into the family room. So again, it's just like a level of communication with the extra square footage to be able to communicate to the lower level, to see what's going on, to get some light into that second floor because you'll have some nice windows, some nice skylights. You know, that's what we were trying to incorporate, this connection between the first and second floor. And Pritam, your point was, just reiterate your point regarding the roof. Is it the roof you were talking about regarding the solar panels? Can you just say that one more time?
Yes, so if the back roof is lower, it'll get more shadow from the front. So the left side is the south side. So that would be energy that would be just lost to heat in the front of the house. So that's an external side effect. But the internal one, to us not being able to see the children while they're in the family room when we're upstairs, that would be if we lowered the roof, we would no longer be able to have that balcony. So that would be the internal implication of bringing that roof down.
Thank you. And I just want to bring out one other issue regarding the site plan. I mean, I understand your concern. If you look at the site plan, this area of the house is basically central on the property. It's not up against anyone's property line where, the height is going to impede on the left or the right. It's not visible from the front. It's really not even visible from the back because you have this steep slope. So just one point I just want to bring out is that if you're concerned about the height of the structure or the size of the structure, it's really not going to impede on the left or the right or the rear, and you're not going to see it from the front. I just want to bring that to your attention. And another thing that I want to also add from my opening statement was the slope. The slope of the back makes it very, very difficult to put any kind of accessory building back there. And if we did put any kind of accessory building down there for, say, a garage, it would just take up the majority of the yard. I mean, we're trying to give back now. We're going to remove that shed. We're going to add grass to the backyard. So right now, the driveway kind of goes all the way back to the shed. We're going to take that shed out because we'll have plenty of storage now. And we're going to actually add grass to the backyard so his kids can have an area to play. And then the two patios, one for entertaining, one for the kids to play. So the backyard will be greatly improved just by removing that shed, adding some grass, and adding the two patios.
Steve? It's Catherine. Can you see me?
Oh, yep. Hi, Catherine. Sorry. Yep.
Hi. I don't know if I missed this, but are we going to just incorporate Mr. Dower's letter or any outstanding issues? Because there were a couple of things in there, like there was a comment about the driveway and a dry well and AC units and whether or not there was a generator.
Yes, we would typically include adherence to the engineer's letter as a condition, but are there any particular points you'd like to call out for discussion?
Well, it did say that the dry well the calculations for the dry well needed to be revised.
Yeah.
We were supposed to ask whether or not there was going to be a generator on the property, and also the curb cut is 20 feet. So I didn't know if we wanted to discuss those issues.
Yes. Mark, anything you want to jump on there to address that were included in the engineer's letter?
All right, so let's talk about one thing at a time. The generator, Pritam, just state your feelings regarding a generator at this time. We don't propose a generator at this time. Is that correct?
No, we'd probably put in a battery system internally for backup.
Okay. And then the driveway and curb cut, basically we went from a smaller driveway to an 18 feet wide, which is basically actually a good thing for the neighborhood because now I can actually park one in the garage, and you have parking for at least 1, 2, 3 cars legitimately. If they're smaller cars, you might be able to get another one in there. And that's the need for the 20-foot wide curb cut to get into the 18-foot wide driveway to park at least 2 more cars left side by side.
Because usually what we see is a smaller curb cut and then the driveway expanding as it goes up. So is that something that you considered?
We can consider that. I'm looking for, the best access to the driveway. Are you thinking of, in the past, have people done like a 12 to 15 foot curb cut to a 18-foot wide driveway? Is that your suggestion?
There's an ordinance regarding the curb cuts, but I don't remember off the top of my head what the Does anybody else know what the curb cut is supposed to be?
Supposed to be 18 feet.
Okay.
Oh, we can reduce it to 18 if that would make the board happy. 18 will not be a detriment to the driveway. And, probably, you know what, to be honest, it probably is 18 because I probably have it to the wide part of the driveway. So if you want to put that in the resolution, 18-foot curb cut for an 18-foot driveway, I have no problem with that whatsoever.
Thanks, Catherine. Joe, you hopped off mute. Do you have anything else you want to add?
No, I do not.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Catherine. You had something else called try?
Just the dry well? Are they going to redo the calculations for the dry well?
Yeah, that was included in the testimony. Yeah.
And then just not to forget, Mr. Gary Lewis, his comments were regarding smoke detectors. I assure you, when I do the construction documents, the AC powered interconnected smoke detectors with battery backup will be required in all the relevant locations. That was from Gary Lewis. So I have no problem with that, and that will be incorporated into my construction documents.
Okay. Mr. Millay, did you have a question? I thought I saw you moving there on your screen. No? No. No, nothing, Mr. Millay? You just shake your head no. Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. Any other questions from members of the board? All right. Any questions from members of the public? This is just questions, not commentary. Questions on this application for this witness. I'm scanning and I'm seeing none. Okay. We'll then send it back to Pritam. Anything you'd like to say in conclusion about the application?
We appreciate your consideration, and we are excited. No matter what happens, we're committed to the community, and we really are thankful for your consideration.
Wonderful. Okay. And then I'll offer, I didn't see any public here one more time if you have any opinion of the application, but I don't see any public here for this application. Okay. Andy, from that back and forth, what conditions do we have to consider as a board before we deliberate?
I have 5 conditions noted. First is that the applicants will comply with all the conditions previously noted in the engineer's report. Second is that the applicants to confer with the zoning officer regarding the final total side yard calculations. Third is that the applicant is to revise its calculations for impervious coverage and to utilize the 3-inch rainfall for the design of the seepage pit. Fourth is the applicant will revise plans to reflect an egress window to ensure the basement bedroom is code compliant. And the 5th and final condition that I have noted is the curb cut is to conform with the 18-foot requirements set forth in the ordinance.
Mark, that makes sense to you? Well, that sounds good.
Yes, just one question.
Mm-hmm.
Upon a hopeful approval tonight, this would be during prior to construction document submission, or would that have to be submitted back to the board? I just want to clarify that so I don't make a mistake on that. Would that be submitted by next meeting, or would that be a stipulation in regards to submitting for construction documents?
For construction documents.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. With that, let's open it to deliberations. Who would like to start us off? I'm gonna pick on Liz today. Liz, you're up.
Sure. Seeing the property and seeing how, if you have extended family and children, I think it would be a modest, well, it's not really a modest renovation. It's a large renovation, but given across the street and a few other houses above on Clark Street and also on Huntley, I think I would be, I would approve it because it will update the house and their lifestyle and get them away from their children.
Thank you, Liz. All right, I want to hear from David, who was wrestling with the FAR as I was. David, what do you think?
I was wrestling right up until about 8:15, I think. No, I went over there today and I was just looking at the neighborhood, and I was still saying this is a lot of house you're putting on a fairly small lot. And what struck me going around the neighborhood is it is very much a neighborhood in transition. You're seeing it all over town where older, smaller houses are getting knocked down and replaced by larger homes. And some I might add are a little excessive. This is kind of on the border in my mind. I think if you had a bigger lot, it would certainly fit in, but this is a smaller lot. But ultimately, it will accommodate a growing family. It will upgrade the existing housing stock. It will provide that benefit of enhanced stormwater management, as well as the benefit of the solar panels. I think that was sort of a thoughtful way of approaching that expanded void space that you have looking down to the great room. And the point is well taken. Ultimately, I look at the absence of public commentary as a factor in my mind. And, if the neighborhood doesn't have much of an objection here, then I'm not going to stand in the way of it. So I'll support the application.
Thank you, David. Any other board members like to add any comment beyond what Liz and David have said?
Well, I'll say it. I'm still wrestling with FAR. I think honestly, I think it's too big. I think Krista gave them a way to reduce the bulk. They have chosen not to look at it. Looking at the drawings, I can see about 3 different ways to make that happen. So I am not going to support this application.
Okay. Anyone else, board members, like to add before we move to a vote? All right, Scott, go for it.
I agree with David. I think he hit the nail on the head. This is too big. I think it's probably not big enough to be egregious. So I will support it. I think they could have done some other things to shape the massing so so much bulk wasn't fronting the street. You could see that there was 2 patios behind the house. I think one of them could have just been infill, filled with house, so you wouldn't have so much frontage facing the street. Probably would have presented itself as less bulky, less huge. But again, I don't think it's egregious enough to say no to this.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Scott. Unless there's any further board comment, I'll add as well and recognize from the architect's testimony that yes, the site does taper towards the rear, and you add that with the sloping, it makes it a slightly difficult lot to develop on. And do appreciate the shape of the building. The second story cathedral ceiling structure does sit in the middle. And I'm on the fence about the FAR. David, probably with where you and Scott are in terms of, it's an interesting balance between with the inclusion of the solar panels. It's not the typical practice of the zoning board to weigh those 2 attributes and at least net them out, if not, weigh them in favor of the solar paneling. But I suppose we'll make a couple of members of the Environmental Commission happy, and that's worth something. So I think I certainly can support the application and would ask for a motion for approval if it's out there.
Motion to approve.
Okay, second.
Second.
All right, Chris, you give us a roll.
Sure. Vice Chairwoman Newell,
Yes.
Mr. Steiner,
No.
Mr. Mullen,
Yes.
Schwartzstein,
Yes.
Mr. Malay,
Yes.
Mr. Loikitz,
Yes.
and Chairman Spur.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. Good luck with the construction. We look forward to seeing those solar panels up.
Thank you very much, board. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's move over to Bellevue Avenue. Purvey and, yep. Where are we? There we are. Hello, how are you this evening?
Hi.
Thanks for your patience. If you can, we're gonna swear you in and then we'll we'll let you give an opportunity to introduce the case.
Sure.
And before I swear you in, Chris, I'm going to ask you to do the same thing on pulling up their application. But in the meantime, if you could each, anyone who's testifying, raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And please state your name, spell your last name one at a time.
Purvi Manyar, M as in Mary, A, N as in Nancy, I-A-R.
Samir Patel, P-A-T-E-L.
Thank you. And if you can see it on the screen, you should be able to see what is the last page of your application. Is that correct?
Yes.
And is that your signature on there?
Yes, it is.
Perfect. Thank you. You can proceed.
Okay, if you could just take a moment to introduce the case, and then we can move to your architect and civil engineers.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Purvi. This is obviously Samir. We're the new homeowners at 27 Bellevue. I believe it's also known as 23 Bellevue in the tax records. We have 2 young children, Arya, who is 5. We also have an Arya, and Luca, who is 3. And we're very excited to be a part of the neighborhood here. We love the street, we love the area. And we've been taking some time over the last few months to modernize our home in terms of making some improvements internally and externally. And we're here today to ask for a variance to add an eat-in kitchen nook, a breakfast nook to our kitchen, so that we can accommodate a kitchen table within our kitchen, a small mudroom area at the bottom of our stairs so that we can have cubbies so our kids can hang up their backpacks and jackets. To move our garage over a little bit, we have, as I'm sure you'll hear from our architect, a rather odd shaped lot. It's shaped like a pentagon. So we have an existing garage that was damaged in the storm last year and requires a number of repairs. And we're asking that if we could move it to the corner of our lot, it allows us to have some green space in our backyard for our kids to play in. And lastly, we're asking for a very small patio just to be able to put out a chair and tables, something pretty minimal.
Okay, thank you very much. Samir, anything you want to add? She did a pretty good job.
Yeah, can't add to that. So I guess with that, I'll turn it over to Michael for comments. Thank you.
All right, we'll take the first Michael, the architect. Where is he? We're going to swear you in, Michael.
And if you could first hop off mute and then raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name.
My first name is Michael. My last name is Chiarella, and it's spelled C-H-I-A-R-E-L-L-A.
Thank you. And would you kindly give your background, experience, and 3 boards you've appeared before aside from Summit?
Sure. I've been a practicing architect for about 25 years. I've been in the Summit area in my own business for over 20 years. And I've appeared before, in addition to Summit, Melbourne, New Providence, Maplewood, Morristown.
Thank you.
Some local.
Any questions from the board, or would you like to accept his credentials?
We'll accept your credentials. Michael,
Thank you.
You may begin.
Okay, so maybe we should start with some housekeeping. And if I can, I'm going to open up some exhibits. The first one I'd like to address is the zoning official, Krista Anderson, mentioned that we need to have an interior width for the garage of 20 feet. So what we'd like to do is we'd like to amend our proposal to make that happen. So this is an altered layout of our plot plan where we're actually pushing the width out another 8 inches from what we had, so that the outside dimension would be 20 foot 8 inches instead of 20 feet.
Sorry, Michael, are you sharing your screen? I'm just not seeing anything on
Oh, I'm sorry. I am sharing the screen. So let me see how to do that.
Should be on the bottom. Should see like a green button.
Excuse me, hold on a second. Are we there?
Getting there.
Loading.
There you go.
Okay, perfect.
So we'll
Okay,
call-
so the current garage width as originally within our application was 20 feet wide. We like to increase it to 20 foot 8 inches wide, and that allows us to have a 20 feet clear inside dimension, wall to wall, figuring that the walls are 4 inches thick. What that does is that increases our lot coverage 0.16%. That's this area right here where we would be introducing additional lot coverage. And also our building coverage would be increased by 0.19%.
Okay.
So I would like to make that adjustment so that we conform to the interior garage width requirement.
And just to be clear, Chris, this is a new exhibit?
Yeah,
We
we're gonna
haven't seen this.
all of these. We'll start A1 with this one and make our way through. Michael, if you can provide some nice, easy labels, that'll be great.
Yeah, so Chris, I had emailed all these exhibits to you. Maybe you weren't able to open it up. It was just before the meeting. And so I have labeled this as this PDF. I've labeled it as Exhibit A, for instance. So.
All right, we'll call it A1 and then A2 for the next one and so on.
Okay. Okay, so then the next issue that was part of Chris Anderson's comments was that she wanted me to give you some clarity on roof overhangs. For building coverage, we have to consider part of the building footprint, any roofs that are more than 3 feet, more than 24 inches deep. And this particular house has roof overhangs that are 3 feet deep above the second floor. So what this drawing just shows is just my, like a worksheet, how I came to figure on those large roof overhangs as part of building coverage. So these red areas indicate the roof overhangs that are to be counted as far as building coverage goes. So this is an existing roof overhang that extends all the way over and meets up to and kind of like wraps around where the second floor is. But the only reason why I didn't include anything beyond this red rectangle is because I'm actually already including for instance, existing stairs as building coverage. Same thing with the porch. We have a second floor roof overhang that extends over the porch, but no need to count it because we're already counting the porch as part of building coverage. So it got a little bit convoluted. And I think it kind of like maybe tripped Krista up with her building coverage numbers. So anyway, we have I have a difference of building coverage from what Krista came up with. I had 26.5% for the proposed coverage, and she came up with 25.5%. And I think that's what it came down to. It's just trying to understand these roof overhangs.
Thank you for the clarification. Andy, you following along?
Yes.
All right, great.
Okay, so now I'd like to let me also say that I think I made a mention on my summation that no trees were to be taken down, but there was one ash tree that has already been removed that was in the rear yard of the property, close to where our detached garage is going to be. It had succumbed to the emerald ash borer beetle, so it was pretty much diseased and really had to be removed. So I just wanted to give that clarification. And perhaps I could start with looking at the first floor plan. So perhaps I could just walk you through the basic design that we have. This is the first floor plan. Originally, currently there's a detached garage in this corner of the property. It's like the rear left-hand corner, and it's in disrepair. As Purvi said, it didn't last one of those big storms a couple years ago, and so it's basically needs to come down and be rebuilt. So we thought to rebuild it on the right side of the property, change the location. It allows for a more efficient use of lot coverage. You know, we need less driveway then to make that happen. Also what's going to happen is this, this detached garage is now going to be like a complementary building element to the main house as an accessory structure. So it's going to, I think, speak very nicely to the first floor, and I'll get more into that later. So as we look into the main house, this is, if you follow my cursor, this is the original building line that exists. And then this like lightly graded area, that is our building addition. And what we are doing in that building addition is we are putting a breakfast table with a built-in bench and a bay window and a very small mudroom. It's really just like kind of like a glorified rear entrance that's going to pair up nicely with the detached garage, which is here. So the mudroom, you know, I tried to make it as compact as possible and still give them a place to maybe install some cubbies. And also what this mudroom is going to do, it's going to be on an intermediate level. It's going to be pretty much on grade level. So from this mudroom, we walk into the mudroom from grade. Then we're going to walk up 5 steps till we hit the breakfast area. And then we're on the main first floor level. Also, we get to walk down to the basement level. So it's this like intermediate level. And what's great about this is basements now need to have 2 means of egress per construction codes. And so with this mudroom connection to the basement, it will allow for that to happen, so that the basement has a stairway coming up to the main stair hall, but then it also have another way to get out directly to the outside to the mudroom. Also, what we're doing is we're opening up a bit of the first floor plan. So the kitchen is going to be not so much in its compartment, but we're trying to, we're trying to borrow spaces, make a sense of expanse within the floors. So now the kitchen is really not so much in its own box, but now it's more communicating with the front half of the house. And what that does is that allows us to reimagine this living room so that we're actually going to put the dining table here. The dining table is on the opposite side of the house, but it's got like a nice connection now to the kitchen, which it wouldn't have had otherwise. And then what that allows us to do is it allows us to take this existing dining room and really turn it into a family room. So in a sense, this room label is mislabeled. It really should read in the proposal as family room. So we could have a TV here and nice seating. So you can see how we're trying to reimagine the existing spaces. We're trying to make the addition as compact as we can to still provide what we want, which is an area for a breakfast table and a mudroom rear entrance. And part of the job too is that we will be reworking the kitchen. It's probably going to be a phase B. I think Purvi and Samir are going to live with the existing kitchen for now, but this imagines the, like the ultimate master plan of what we want to do. So we're asking for 3 variances. We're asking for a variance for building coverage, lot coverage, and floor area ratio. So let me start with lot coverage. We're asking for, just bear with me for a second. We're asking for a lot coverage of about 50%. I'm sorry, 41%, and we're allowed 35%. So one of the things about this property is this is a very like substandard sized lot. So if you consider what the standard lot, a standard sized lot, which is 10,000 square feet, the R10 zone. What that means is that for a standard sized lot, we are allowed to build up to 3,500 square feet for lot coverage, 35% of 10,000. And our current lot area where our current lot coverage where it's taken up by impervious surfaces amounts to 3,410. And actually, it's going to actually amount to 3,423 once we consider the change for the detached garage, where we're adding a couple square feet. So our proposal is actually below the lot coverage requirements of what a standard R10 lot size is. So just want to put it in that perspective. And then as far as floor area ratio, we have a 4-bedroom upstairs. So we're trying to get the first floor just to be accommodating to what you expect to have, that you expect a 4-bedroom house to have on the first floor. We're combining living and dining room, where we've got a decent but not great family room, quite frankly. And our breakfast area is also, it's comfortable, but it's on the more compact side, where we're making use out of the window seat. So again, for floor area ratio, it's a substandard sized lot. The amount of the floor area that we're asking a variance for, which is 409 square feet, it actually, again, is under it's within the allowance of what a standard lot size would require, which is 2,500 square feet. So any house on a standard lot size would allow 2,500 square feet for floor area, and we're under that by about 90 square feet. And then lastly is building coverage. We have some things that handicap us a little bit. Just to start with, I should say that the R10 zone requires 18%, and we're asking for a variance for 26.5%, or 25.5% if you want to take Krista Anderson's numbers. So regarding building coverage, a lot of this building area is taken up by the deep roof overhangs that we have, and we have a very large wraparound front porch, and that's eating up a lot of building coverage for us. So if we were to if we could have eliminated the porch, and if we could have eliminated the 3-foot roof overhangs, that would have accounted for 4.7% of building coverage right there. But the wraparound porch is definitely like a signature of the house. And also the 3-foot roof overhangs, that it really makes the house what it is, like that vintage, country Victorian house. So I'd like to, hopefully, in my feeling, I think it's really worth the variances that we're seeking. If I can look at first, let me go to, I'm just going to back up a little bit and go to the plot plan, because it's got a rendering that we did of what the addition would look like. But first, with the plot plan, you could see, again, our addition as it relates to the.
Michael, you need to
no longer
share your screen again.
Yep.
Oh, sorry.
And just before you do that, I do just want to clarify, I know you mentioned taking Krista's number, which we say is usually what we're doing here, but just want to clarify, the applicant is asking for those increases to the building coverage that were noted for the garage, and also for the roof overhang. So you are asking for the 26.5%. Is that right?
Yeah, yes.
Great.
So here we go. Screen share. That's not it. I'm sorry. Bear with me for a second. Okay, let me do it this way. And hopefully you'll be able to see this. Please let me know if you can see this.
We can. Yep.
Okay, great. Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of backing up a little bit, but maybe it's worth just to go through the layout again in relationship to this plot plan. This is our one-story addition. We're proposing to have that a little patio addition. It's like a free-formed addition. So and it's tying into the driveway with the turnaround, and then in between we're forming a planted island. That would be like a feature planted area, and I'll refer back to Samir and Purvi, but I think the idea here is that we would be using local native plants as part of that planting. And then this is our detached garage. There is another adjacent detached garage back here, adjacent property, and that's also in disrepair. So one of the strategies that we're thinking is that from Bellevue Avenue, that you're looking down the driveway, and then you're going to be greeted with a brand new, nice detached garage instead of this existing garage that its time is up. We're going to put a gable end in on this garage that's going to match an existing gable end on the second floor of the main house right there. So I think those two gable elements are going to speak well to each other. And then getting to the rendering that we have, this is our breakfast room and mudroom addition. This is the bay window of the breakfast room, and then inside we're stepping down to meet grade, and then that's our entrance to the mudroom. We have some existing corbels here at the existing porch, and we want to repeat those as an element in the roof overhang that's over the entrance door. There is a stick detail in the front of the house in the gable, and we want to repeat that with a stick detail here. So we're trying to take our cue from the existing structure, use the same vocabulary, extend it into the backyard. I know we're just talking about the backyard, but it seems like the nature of that, the neighboring properties is that there's like a lot of properties at strange angles to each other. So we just wanted to make this as presentable as possible to the neighbors in the back.
Great.
And I think that's it for now.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Very comprehensive. Let's ask Mr. Dower, and understanding I believe there's also a civil engineer for this application. Mr. Dower, anything for the architect?
We have the same issue as the prior application with some discrepancies between the coverage calculations. So I think I'll wait until the engineer provides testimony to discuss it at that point.
Okay. And I think similarly, Andy, if we need to include some condition where those need to be trued up, that's something we could include in the application.
Yep.
The resolution. Great. Any questions from members of the board for the architect? Claire, yep, go for it.
When I drove by the property, it looked like there was construction going on already. And I'm just curious about what portions of this are happening And if for some reason we were to deny the application tonight, what happens to what's happening on the property right now?
Okay, so so if you don't if you don't accept the application, I think Purvi and Samir are going to have a hard drink tonight. So, but so Purvi and Samir, they are doing some alteration work inside. They're renovating bathrooms. They're replacing the old windows that are non-functioning anymore with new windows. They're doing just like a general makeover, I think, and I commend them for it. They've been they seem to be like wonderful stewards of the house, trying to breathe new life into it, at the same time respecting the vintage nature of the house. So and I know as an architect, I've been really pushing them for to have, you know, to have a design that's kind of like going to be in keeping with the house. I think it's maybe more than what they asked for when they first hired me, but they've, you know, they've risen to the challenge. So I'm very happy. But then to really answer your question, you know, the work that they're doing now is just very independent of the addition that we're asking for.
Got to come off mute. Any questions from members of the board? Oh, go ahead, Mr. Malay.
I wonder if this new location for the garage is kind of street-facing garage. It's a little backward, but it's still a street-facing location, right?
Yeah, so it's a detached garage and it's in the rear yard. That front-facing garage doors really doesn't apply to detached garages that are in the rear yard.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Any questions from members of the board? Okay, I don't see any questions from members of the public for the architect. This is just questions, not opinion. Any questions from members of the public? Ms. McDonough? Yep, you can hop off mute.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep, just state your name and address for the record and you can ask your question.
My name is Kathleen McDonough and we reside at 29 Bellevue Avenue.
Sure, so, your question for the architect? Yep.
I did. I wanted to ask you to look at your lot plan for a second. I think that was exhibit number 3. And I wanted you to tell me, sir, how far distance from the existing structure, exclusive of the covered porch, to the rear property lot line, your addition to the back would be. How far does it project from the existing structure at the furthest projection? Is it 9.5 feet?
I'm not sure what you're asking for. You mentioned rear yard, rear lot line?
I'm addressing myself to the addition at the back, the breakfast area.
Yes.
In bay window.
Michael, would you mind sharing the plan, the lot plan, so we can look at it all together?
Okay. Do you have the plot plan up? No?
We can if you want. Chris, do you have one or?
No, I mean.
There's nothing being shared right now, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me see if I can share it again. Sorry about this. I'm sorry that I'm having a little trouble here.
You have it, Chris? All right, here. Chris is going to bail you out, Michael.
Just can't see everything yet, so give me a second.
That's all right. We're looking at a picture of something right now.
Here we go. This was it, right?
Right. So I'm looking at the breakfast area and the addition to the rear. And I see the existing, I see the back wall of the existing structure would be pretty much exclusive of the bay area. So you're gonna, from the back of the property, from the rear of the property, you would be adding to the structure at the back, eliminating the covered porch and then going even further out. Is that right?
You have to hop off mute, Michael.
Okay, am I back?
You're back. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't know what happened. So, okay, so yes, the proposed one-story addition is going to extend out beyond the existing the existing platform and steps. Yes.
And the existing platform and steps on your proposed diagram are where? All the way to the rear, exclusive of this bay window?
Are you able to see my cursor?
I am, yes.
Okay, so this is like that one story bump out in the back, and then this is going to be where the existing stairs and platform are right here.
Okay, I'm talking about the eat-in bay window area. At its furthest point, how much further will that addition be projecting from the existing structure?
Okay, so it projects 5 feet.
And
so the distance from this wall to this wall is a 5-foot distance.
When you say 5 feet, is that 5 feet from where the covered porch is now? An additional 5? Okay.
Yeah, 5 feet from the covered porch is now.
So
yes.
You'd essentially be incorporating the covered porch, which projects out from the structure maybe 5 or 6 feet, and then going out another 5 feet.
Yes, from the 2-story portion of the house. Yes.
Okay, and then how from?
And hold on a second. I could probably be more exact with that. Give me a second. So, hold on 1 second. Sorry about that. We're extending out 9 foot 8 inches from the 2-story portion of the existing footprint.
Does that mean 9 foot from where the end of the covered porch is?
No.
It means 9 foot from the permanent wall.
Yeah, not 9 foot from where the stairwell window, where the stairway window is.
All right, and then from the proposed structure, what is the distance between the furthest point of that addition and the property that is, I'm going to say, to the rear of their lot, the Bryant's property? How far is that? Because
8 feet.
Okay. Now, does that 8 feet include the roof overhang?
No, it includes the footprint of the building.
Okay, so I think what you're saying is it's 9 feet or 9.5 feet plus roof overhang of another 3 feet, which is 36 inches, right? So
no, the 36 inches was the existing second floor. I think our roof overhang would be more like 2 feet. But yes, we do want to have a nice roof overhang, 2 feet.
And in terms of the width of the structure, can I say it's approximately 20 feet across?
It's 18 foot 7 feet across.
Okay. Now, I looked at page 4 of your submission. And I was going to ask if you could just pull them up. I wanted to ask you a couple of things.
I could try to see if I could call that up again.
Hey, Michael, Chris can help you here with the document. Just make sure, maybe Kathleen, you can help as well, that we're looking at the right page of it. So just confirm that for us.
Yes, that's the right page. It's the lower left-hand corner.
Mm-hmm.
So I am wondering how tall the proposed addition in the back would be from the ground up to the furthest point. The cathedral ceiling, you're going to raise the ceiling, right?
Sure. The addition is going to be 16 feet from the grade to the roof.
I see that there are 4 windows in the bay window area. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. And how big is each of those windows?
I would think like 2.5 feet, but hold on a second. I could probably be more specific. Yeah, nominally 2.5 feet.
All right.
But probably a little bit smaller.
So what is the total square footage or area of this bay window addition? Just the window itself, what's the dimensions of it? All 4 panels?
I'm sorry. You're talking about the footprint of the building.
No, I was trying to get an idea of how big collectively those 4 panels would be.
Oh, you're asking what's the area of the windows?
Yes.
Hold on a second. So each one of those windows are 2 foot 4 inches by 5 foot 6 inches. So if bear with me, I can. So each window is 12.8 square feet times 4. Like 51 square feet.
Thank you. Did the applicant consider alternative to the addition in the rear or the variances other than for the garage?
We explored different directions and we settled on this direction as the one that made the most sense to all of us.
Well, did the applicant consider enclosing the back porch area, but eliminating an eat-in bay window area?
I think in my discussions with them, and I totally agree with them, the wraparound porch is such like a gem of the house with a vintage railing that we didn't really want to touch that at all.
No, what I really mean is in the rear of the property, there's a covered back porch. So what I'm saying is, did the applicant consider enclosing that back porch without adding more onto their project by way of this additional bay window and cathedral ceiling?
Are you talking about the platform and
Close
steps?
the back porch.
Are you talking about the existing back platform and steps?
I am.
Yeah, we started with that, sure. Yes,
Okay. And you reject it in favor of this approach?
yes, for sure.
Did you consider also double hung as opposed to the bay window concept? So the back would be flat.
Well, what I like about the bay window is that it's actually trying to mind the property lines. So if we had squared it off in some way, I think we would be hurting ourselves as far as pushing in any addition closer to the property line. So that just made a lot of sense to me as a designer to think in terms of a bay window there.
In terms of, sorry to interrupt, just to, I think, kind of add some clarification to your question. We did consider it, but being a family with kids, we wanted to be able to ensure that the kitchen was functional and we're able to accommodate having the kids sit at a table while we cooking and we're in the kitchen doing work, because the house is Victorian. It's sectioned off in a way that if they're in a different room, it's really hard to see them. And because they're 3 and 5, we want to have the ability so that they can sit and eat breakfast while we're getting them ready for breakfast or getting them ready for school and making their lunches. And so taking back just the covered platform and steps didn't give us enough room to be able to do that because it's such a small kitchen as it is. And when we considered the addition, we tried to be very considerate of how far out we were going.
We actually went with the bay window because we could build in a bench seat. So to eliminate the need to push the table even further out to have chairs there that would need room behind them and clearance. So we actually opted for the bay window instead of a squared off edge also, so that we could have a built-in bench seat so that there'd just be room for the table altogether.
Does your kitchen plan accommodate both a counter area with bar stools and this eat-in area?
Yes, it does as of now. But our children are 3 and 5, so we can't consistently have them sit at counter stools at this point.
So your plan contemplates eliminating the current relationship with the dining room area in favor of more or less a family room and making that back part of the property the entire kitchen and dining area. Is that right?
And a mudroom, as we noted at the beginning, just so there's an entrance where, you know, the kids can get rid of their muddy shoes, their backpack from school. They can kind of unload, you know, all the dirt that they come in with.
As you might be familiar, our front door actually is like the historical door that has like a foyer, really small, like it's a 2-door situation with a vestibule. So there's no room to actually put coats or like shoes there with the kids. And our garage is in the back as well. We also, we're going to keep a formal dining table in the current family room in the front, adjacent to the porch. But there won't be room in our kitchen for more than like 4. It's just going to be enough for us to eat as on a regular basis as a family. But we'll reserve the formal like dining area in the front of our what is going to be our living room, just for when we have, you know, parents over or siblings or something like that.
But would you agree that without the bay window addition, you'd still have an eating kitchen? It's your preference to have it bigger and
No,
we wouldn't.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Pardon?
I didn't mean to interrupt your question. I'll let you finish.
Is it fair to say that if you enclose the back porch but didn't add the bay window on, that the kitchen would still be functional as an eating kitchen? It's not obviously your preference. I mean, your plan is very beautiful, and I understand that, but it's still functional as a kitchen and as an eating kitchen.
Yeah, so we really did consider it. It wasn't enough. So if you walk into the kitchen now, there's not a lot of room for cabinetry. By the time you add an island or a table, you've now taken the entire footprint of the kitchen. There's not much more room. And so that was sort of, you know, one of the drivers for pushing it out a little bit more.
And we have, you know, as we mentioned, like we have small children, so we were mindful of the fact that we needed room in between like the counters and the table. They're 3 and 5, they run around. I just wanted to make sure that there was a little bit of room so that if they're running laps in the kitchen, which they do right now, that, you know, we're not risking bumps and spills. So we were mindful. We did try to work with the footprint of the covered porch or the covered back steps area, but it didn't give us room to have a table and then have adequate space between the table and the other elements of the kitchen so that it would be safe.
In terms of the aesthetic appeal of it, when you're in the rear of the property, when it's built, basically there is no approach to it. You're sort of a few feet from the lot line in the back. So there's no living area back there. It's just your window looks like it's on the property line, but there's no real space between your neighbor's property line and your addition. Or I seem to hear there was something like 8 feet from the furthest point. Is that about right?
Yes, 8 feet to the closest point, yes.
Yeah, that part of our property actually looks out onto Nina Bryan's garage, the back of her garage. So you are right, it is, we are relatively close to there, and which is why we're here today seeking the variance.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, one thing is that it's a really odd size, small lot. And so we were, you know, taking that into account, and we were considering what we were going to ask the board's consideration for. And also in a way that we're trying to optimize the small lot that we have.
And keep the charm of the house. We didn't want to, you know, we bought the house because it's beautiful and has a lot of charm to it. And we didn't want to do anything to disrupt that. We wanted to keep that feel.
In the rear of the house, as it now stands, there is one window and none. So the new windows would completely replace what is basically a back door and one window. Is that about right?
I think it may replace a couple of other windows.
Michael, could I ask you, can I figure out where on your plans that air conditioner compressor is located?
Okay, so let me see. So where I have the cursor, I think that's where it would be going.
I'm sorry.
You'll need to share, Michael. That was Chris sharing the screen.
Okay, so let me try to share. if I can. Share and. Okay, let's see. So let me go to. Is this up?
Something's up, yes.
Okay.
Lot plan is up.
Okay, great. So I believe that that Samir and Purvi are going to be installing an air conditioning system. They don't have one currently in the house. And I believe that they're installing it right in this pocket. So it'll come out probably like no more than 4 feet, I suppose, from the this recessed wall. And so it would be something like, more than 8 feet away from the property line, from the side yard property line.
Can you tell me if a generator is planned?
Not that I know of.
I saw in the comments of the officials that solar panels were recommended for this homeowner as well. Is that considered?
No, we have like first of all, it's a vintage, stick style Victorian house. I would hate to see solar panels on it, especially that it's got a hip roof. Hip roofs are just not conducive to solar panels. So also it's I think it's pretty heavily treed in general, this area. So once you have like the tree canopies casting shade on any part of a solar on a solar roof panel, the whole system gets compromised as far as producing electricity. So it's not something that we were really ever considering. What we are going to do is we are going to put very energy efficient windows in. We're going to be putting extra thick insulation throughout. So the passively, we're going to make this into a very energy efficient addition, at least. Something that far exceeds the code requirements for energy conservation.
In terms of the proposal, in addition to the addition, your plan contemplates a permanent patio area as well, right?
Yes.
And I couldn't tell, what are the dimensions of that? Is it concrete or paving?
We're thinking that it's going to be a paved patio area with like a brick border. And it's going to be like more like a free-form shape. So the pavers would, we haven't gotten to that detail, but the paved surface would probably be like some kind of like irregular shape pavers, like in a regular shaped pattern.
And what's the distance from the patio area, the furthermost portion of the patio area, to the rear property line, which I guess you're calling a sideline?
Hold on one sec. Uh, 28 feet.
On the left side of the property, Michael, is it fair to say that from the side line, from the lot line on the side,
This line, yes.
it's the furthest away the present structure, or it goes up? But what I'm trying to say is the side yard is anywhere from 5 or 6 feet on the side yard to about 8 feet. Is that right? So
The distance from the side yard property line to the building?
Yes.
Yeah, so to the current building, it is Let me see if I could enlarge this.
5.87.
There we go. Sorry about that. Now I got it. It's 5'11" from the corner of the current building to the side yard property line, and our proposal is 8 feet from the nearest corner of the addition to the property line.
And then in the front, where the air conditioner compressor is planned to be located, it would, inclusive of the compressor, it would be 8 feet to the side yard line, right?
Probably a little more distance than 8 feet. Probably like, I don't really have that information, but if you figure a 3 foot by 3 foot condenser unit 10 inches away from the face of the building, that comes out 3'10" from this area. These are just standard numbers that I'm giving you.
Michael, though, just to clarify, you're not asking for a variance with respect to location of the air conditioning units as part of this?
No, we're not.
Okay, so it would conform with the existing DRO. Is that
Yes,
correct?
it would. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it would be something like maybe 12 foot 6 inches from the side yard property line.
In connection with the application, is the applicant considering any screenage or buffering on any portion of the property in addition to that which was presented?
Well, I think when that air conditioning unit is going to be installed, they will definitely put screening to conform to the City of Summit requirements.
When you have screening for the compressor, don't you have to leave some space so that thing can breathe, or before you put, doesn't it limit you somewhat in terms of where you could put any plantings or buffering?
Yeah, so this is all manufacturer dictated. So whatever the manufacturer's installation requirements are, they have, the unit has to abide by that.
Right, but
I don't know what they are.
Sorry, Michael, just to interject here, there is no air conditioner within this proposed plan. That's a later proposed addition.
It's something that Purvey, it's something that Samir and Purvey are going to be doing actually very soon, and it's just kind of like independent from this addition. They're going to be doing it as a matter of course.
And I would just suggest, Ms. McDonough, if we ever have an opening on this board, I would welcome you to join. Your question's very thorough and pointed. Thank you very much. But it sounds like you should certainly sit with the homeowners, as it appears that they're planning a multi-phased renovation of this property. So if we would just ask that you could limit your questioning to the application as it's being presented this evening, and these additional items, buy each other a cup of coffee and some donuts, and you can hash it out, over the weekend.
I appreciate that. Some of these comments are from the comments of the officials themselves.
Thank you. Yep. You're welcome to continue. Just a reminder to kind of stay focused on the application before the board, if possible.
I didn't see where any lighting was planned in connection with the application, except in connection with the garage. Is there any lighting planned for the exterior rear or the patio?
Yes, we just we put a note about lighting on the first sheet. I think was that. In our application, what we suggested is that we're going to be putting 2 light fixtures flanking the garage doors, one at this corner, one at this corner, and then we're going to be putting a surface mounted or a pendant mounted light fixture underneath the roof overhang at the rear entrance door. And our lighting at this point is going to be limited to that. I mean, if Purvey and Samir want to do some landscape accent lighting, that's going to be something that's independent of this proposal. I'm not considering that as part of this proposal.
Thank you. I didn't have any other questions.
There will be a civil engineer as well, so we'll have another opportunity to ask some questions if something pops to mind. Are there any other neighbors, again, for any other members of the public, rather, for the architect that'd like to ask questions? Scan through. Okay, let's go to Michael 2 then, the engineer. Michael, you're with us?
Yes.
All right, go ahead, Andy.
Yep. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name.
Michael L. Jurist, Jurist.
Thank you. And would you briefly describe your background, experience, and 3 boards you've appeared before aside from Summit?
Sure, I've been practicing civil engineering since 1996. I've got a master's in civil engineering from NYU Polytechnic. I'm licensed in New Jersey. I've testified before the Summit Board on multiple occasions, Morristown Township, Milburn Township, Montville Township, Borough of New Providence, etc. So,
Thank you. And assuming no questions from the board, I imagine they'd like to accept your credentials at this point.
We will. Welcome back, Michael. You may begin.
thank you. I'm going to be brief, given the time already right now, and the fact that I think Michael Chiarella has really touched upon most of the salient issues. I just want to talk about the plan that I developed, which was the grading and drainage, stormwater drainage plan. I mean, so we didn't mention anything about grading this evening or about stormwater collection and detention. So I want to briefly just go over that part of the plan. And I will, how do I do this? Share screen? Just hit the green tab. I'm not too familiar with this.
Yep, hit the green tab and it should give you the option to share one of your screens or a window.
Okay, I got you.
If you need help, Chris will bail you out up there.
Okay. I'll hit that and then hit share. All right. Can everyone see my shared plan?
Still loading for me. Oh, there we go. May want to zoom in for us though, but I can see it.
Yeah, let me just, okay. So when this garage is going to be ripped down, the one that's being taken out, that's located around, everyone can see my cursor around in this area. It's going to leave some disjointed gradient lines or contour lines, which need to be reconnected. And I've done so here. Also, I took advantage of the direction of the sheet flow from the stormwater runoff, which is running from basically southeast to northwest. So it's basically running in this direction. And that is due in part to a 7% slope between the, or 7 foot, I should say, I'm sorry, 7 foot. Yeah, 7 foot drop off. It's about a 6% slope. So it's 7 foot drop off from this corner right here, the southeast corner, all the way to the curb line, which is further up. It's kind of deceiving. You know, you wouldn't think that when you look at the house that there's a 7 foot drop off. So the stormwater runoff is definitely running in that direction toward the street from the southeast corner of the property. So the water is going to be, the stormwater runoff will be swaled, taking advantage of the grades as they go down in elevation from the rear to the curb, and also, you know, taking advantage of that situation on the other side of the property where the new garage and K-turn will be located as well. As far as the stormwater collection is concerned, there's a nominal increase in overall impervious coverage from the project. That number will probably change a little bit given some of the testimony that was you've heard tonight concerning roof overhangs and just overall a little bit of discrepancy in building coverage versus, you know, what we had written down in the proposal and what is reality, but not by much. But anyway, getting back to my point with regard to the stormwater runoff that's captured, The easiest thing to do is to choose a roof leader that is closest to the direction of flow and direct that into a seepage pit, which we're doing here at the curb line. The storm tech chamber is going in at this point. Comment came back from the engineering folks indicating they would like that 10 feet off the property line and 10 feet from the covered porch, which we will obviously comply with, not a problem. But the runoff from this roof leader basically is equal to the runoff from the extra impervious coverage as a result of the property. So the net increase in runoff will be zero. It's going to be captured and retained. Wanted to just touch upon a couple of comments that were made by the engineer who reviewed the plans. There was a comment that there's steep slope on the property and that wasn't taken into consideration. I think that with all due respect to the reviewer, they just missed that point. On the bottom of my plan, right here in the middle, you can see the steep slope disturbance right here. Not much being disturbed, 20 square feet, thousands is the limit. So, but it's there. And then I think there's one other comment. Yeah, there's one other comment. There's a typo in the proposed grades that are being connected to the disjointed ones as a result of this project. And right up in here, just bear with me. Here it is. Let me just move it over a little bit. Yeah, right here, there's a grade that's 260. It's obviously wrong. It should be 360. It was a typo, so we'll address that as well. It's not a problem. But basically, in a nutshell, that's the essence of the grading plan and stormwater runoff plan for this project.
Good. Thank you, Michael. Mr. Dower, any questions for the engineer here that he hasn't already addressed?
No, I think he's already addressed everything. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. And we would condition this application on acceptance of the engineer's letter just to address all those points that you've covered and a few others. So any questions from members of the board for the engineer? Let's see, any questions from members of the public for the engineer? I see Ken Bryant, or maybe you hop off mute there. Yep.
Sorry. Hi. So when you're looking at
sorry,
the house,
can you state your name and your address, and then you can ask
this
a
is
question. Yep.
Nina Bryant. I'm at 125 Beechwood.
Okay.
When you're looking at the house from the back, can you talk about the grading and what you're doing regarding water on the right side of the house? So you talked about the side with the driveway. Can you talk about the other side?
Yeah, the other side, as you can see in the left side, it's swaled. So basically we're tunneling the water, or channeling the water is a better word, toward the curb.
So right where your cursor sits right now, where it's sitting right now, there's like a lot of water sits there currently. So
Right over here?
yeah. So what are you doing? Something new? Is there new grading?
Well, I didn't realize that was a problem. I've been out to the site several times. I didn't see, is this only after a torrential rain event? And how long is it?
I mean, it definitely, after a torrential rain event, I'm not able to mow back there. It's so wet. And I think regularly I would call it pretty wet. So that actually, with the construction, has been my primary concern, is that area is very, very wet.
Okay, what we can do is put a French drain system over, a small one to try to capture the runoff if that's something that's acceptable, with some riverbed stone and basically direct the pipe. We can direct the pipe in that direction there. It's a possibility, or we can just regrade this a little bit better. Actually, that might even be a better.
I think there is some type of existing French drain. I'm not sure I would call it that. And the water does, like, there is something going on over there, but it just hasn't been effective. And with the new addition to the roof, my concern is that it's going to be really wet, and that does impact, not only me, but all three of us where we connect back there.
Yeah, so I think the existing channel, or whatever we want to call it, towards the front of the house or the side in front, I think there is a drain there. It captures water from, I think, the sump pump in our basement and shoots it out there. But when we work with our landscaper, we can also do something like you're suggesting, like put a drain in to kind of pull the water out and lead it to that drain so that it's just pulling and channeling forward.
I think right now it's open basically at the top. So leaves and things probably get stuck in there. And so we had noted that too, and we can make that so it's I guess whatever a modern French drain looks like, so that it doesn't get clogged up with debris basically.
Yeah. The one thing we have to be careful is not to create a discharge point to the curb, which the township does not like because of icing conditions in the wintertime. But we can, since the grade is decreasing as you move closer to the curb, you can put in like a bubble up inlet to direct the water into that area and then have it bubble up to the surface and then basically get absorbed by the soil or grass that's around it. That might be an option.
Can I ask a question?
What's that?
Can I ask a question with respect to the drainage?
Sure, just Nina, sorry, you have any other questions you'd like to ask? You're good? Okay, thank you. All right, Kathleen, go ahead.
I don't know if the engineer is aware, but there was already an issue with respect to icing up in the winter because of the pipe that was installed to lead water out of the basement. The basement area historically has been troubled for many years in terms of dampness and wet weather especially. Mm-hmm. So not just that, but the left side of the property is from the street, which abuts mine, where our two properties come together. Mm-hmm. There is a French drain with rocks that was installed at the time we did an addition, but because of time and erosion and trees and et cetera that have been taken away, the left side of the property is so.
McDonough, just to pause for a quick second. Andy, sorry, are we getting into testimony here? I just want to be sensitive to testimony on pre-existing conditions.
It does sound a little bit, and if you could please just frame the question a little more directly and just note that you'll be given the opportunity for public comment at the end of the application.
I appreciate that. I just didn't know if the engineer was aware, given the comments he gave tonight, of the existing problem with respect to the drainage on the side of the property, both in connection with the basement overflow coming out to the street, and also because that side of the property is dark and it's wet. Mm-hmm. Water runs down the hillside and makes anything that you might even want to plant over there difficult.
No, you make a very good, very valid point. But this, this plan doesn't address existing conditions like sump pumps pumping out to the side there. And
Mr. Dower, would it be a leap to have a stormwater management plan completed and submitted for review just to address all these other extraneous issues?
That would be a good recommendation, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so unless Samir and Purvi, unless you object, we would just ask that your engineers submit kind of a holistic stormwater management plan for the property, much of which is already incorporated in what we've seen here, and just addressing some of these other minor issues, and that would be reviewed and approved.
Yep, thank you for moving along.
Okay.
And should we retain jurisdiction for a couple of years?
Sure, let's retain drainage jurisdiction for 2 years. Cool. All right. Any other questions for the engineer or for the civil engineer? Okay. All right, let's see. Any public comments? Let's move to that because I believe that was your last witness, Samir and Purvi. Yes, okay. This will be an opportunity for public comment. We'll swear you in. You can share any comment, pro, con that you'd like to about this application as it's been submitted and the conditions that have been discussed.
Hi. So
hello, Mr.
I'm
Bryant. Yep.
And let me just swear you in. If you could raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
yes,
And please state your name, spell your last name.
Ken Bryant, and it's B as in boy, R-Y-A-N-T.
Thank you.
Great. Hey, Purvi and Samir, welcome to the neighborhood. So my comments are this, they're simple. There's not anything in particular about the plan that I see that I find disagreeable in terms of individual aspects. And truthfully, they would be relocating their garage farther away from my property line, which would be a benefit for me. That said, holistically, what gives me pause, and I say this just starting out that we're relatively new to the town. We've been here for about 5 years. And so we don't know how all the dynamics and how these things unfold. But as was noted several times, the lot is small and misshapen. All of our lots, though, are small and misshapen. And they all come, as you've seen in the plans, in a curious, right, just in a curious geography. And when you look at the totality of the plan, I forget, but the architect, Michael, in the beginning was talking about the percentages and the variances, and he was somewhat dismissive, but they seem large to me. So going from 28% to, I think it was 36%. And his comment was, well, if it wasn't such a small and misshapen lot, it wouldn't be 36%. Which seemed like an absurd comment to me. And he made it 2 or 3 times. So I just wanted to note that it is a small and misshapen lot. It seems like, which is a problem that the applicants are facing. I think that this plan in some ways puts that problem onto me. And it builds up the density in an already tight space. And it makes their problem become a shared problem with the 3 of us. So I wanted to have that on the record. And with that said, I really am excited to have you guys come in.
Thank you, Mr. Bryant. Anyone else from the public would like to make a comment on this application? Yep, Ms. McDonough, we're just going to swear you in this time.
And if you could raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And please state your name, spell your last name.
Kathleen McDonough, McDonough, 29 Bellevue Avenue in Summit.
Thank you.
I think all of the neighbors understand that this is a non-conforming structure and a non-conforming lot. And that is the way you have a historic home. So that's the way it has always been. And that you're a young family. And then of course you want to maximize your home. It looks to me as though you're trying to make a one-family dwelling into a townhouse where there is virtually no outdoor space that isn't somehow impervious coverage. But the problem I have is that what is just like what Mr. Bryant said, this is a very small area to accomplish a lot. So all the action happens in the rear of the property where there's the least amount of space. And so you want to put an addition on, plus have a permanent patio, plus a garage that's more than double the size of the garage that is there now. So that is one issue, that you're putting a lot, you're trying to do a lot within a very small area. this house has a number of detriments. I understand that. It also goes up 3 stories, so you do have living space on the 3rd floor too. But the impact of the plan isn't really appreciated unless you're able to stand back a little bit and look at the surrounding area and the properties that it impacts. That particular area of Bellevue, which is commonly known as 5 Corners, except for Tom Getzendanner's lot, he's across the street. Tom, I see you're listening in. He's not impacted quite so much. He's on about 3 acres, but the properties that abut yours are the structures on that are all very condensed, and they're all located right exactly where you'd like to do your improvements. So your property is on the sideline of my property. It's separated in some instances by only 5 feet. And then in the rear, there's only a few feet now between the covered porch and the rear line. To the other side, you're already absolutely up against the driveway of your neighbor. And there are 3 garages in that rear area in a very small area. So the reason that it's even more impactful is in the context of what is going on around it. So our fear is that all of the elements of your addition, which you have said you plan on using your kitchen a lot, I feel that it will increase the enjoyment of my property. There will be more noise, there will be more light, there will be more living going on in that particular area, which impacts my property because my entire wall of windows in my dining room and my kitchen is right there. So really it's kind of cheek, not just cheek by jowl, it's more than that. I don't want to be looking in your Cheerios, I guess is what I'm trying to say. The structure that you have in mind has very big windows. One of them is at a 45-degree angle facing me. And so directly, basically at my kitchen door or my kitchen window. So it's not just the amount of building that you're doing, it's the addition of windows and the kind of building that will bring your activities that much closer to us. So we fully appreciate that you want to make the most of your house. We also pay a lot of taxes, and we have for 30 years. So we want to be able to enjoy our property. And I feel that if your addition, the way it is planned, is successful, my enjoyment of my property will be diminished and the value of my property will be diminished, because I have no doubt somebody coming in to buy it is going to say, oh, wait a minute, they're right up against that property over there. You're on top of each other. That's, commonly how it's referred to. So I think that, when I was asking questions about, did you consider alternatives, it was really having in mind that you might consider doing something more modest than that which you planned. And I just see that the bay window, which has a cathedral ceiling, which is going to rise up quite a bit and then have a roof, and then a roof overhang of 24 inches, but maybe more, is going to make the structure that much more imposing and feeling that much more crowded in that area. But I also noted that the approach to the back and the windows in the back and the back bay window is very lovely inside and outside. You have a very good architect. My husband is in the real estate business and he recommends your architect highly. So we think very highly of him. He does beautiful work, but you're not going to be able to appreciate it unless you're standing in Ken Bryant's yard, because you're on the property lines. You can't even walk outside to your own addition and look at it from the outside unless you go in Ken's yard. Coupled with the fact that there is no real opportunity for screening. Screening is the last offense, because that really means there's nothing else we can do. So let's suggest a couple of bushes, and somehow that is supposed to hide the size and the noise of the air conditioner or anything else that's going on. You're so far over to the side of the property already that there really is no opportunity to add buffer. You add buffer and you're going to be eating that bush or window once you open your bay window, and it will impinge on my side of the property as well. Whatever is there right now, and I did give Mr. Nicola some pictures so that the visual for those people who haven't driven by could be shared, because it's a very narrow tunnel going down the side of that property to the front. And it is some of the bushes and foliage that you see right now are not yours, they're ours, because they fall on our side of the lot line. So especially when you're going to talk about putting a compressor or whatever plans you have for the future on that lot line, there really isn't an opportunity to say, well, let's just put some buffer up there, some bushes, and it will screen, what else is going on. There isn't any room to do that. So I guess that was really it.
Mrs. Dunn, I would just note that if you want the exhibits into the record, then we would have to mark them and then put them up on the screen so the board could see that way.
Okay, Mr. Nicole, I gave them to Mr. Nicole. If he could share them.
Sure.
I have the opportunity to get out of sharing right now. This is a picture I will represent to the board that I took yesterday. And to the left side is my property. And to the right is the applicant's property. So we don't have the opportunity to move our house. It's already on the lot line. There is nothing we can do to shield ourselves further from the proposed plans. But that you can see the drainage in the front. You can see a little bit of the pipe that runs out to the front of the property. And the front of the property is wet. It was dry yesterday. So whatever plans there might be for drainage or water runoff, clearly are not sufficient for what is there right now. And certainly, I think it's fair to make a comment during this application process when they should probably be considered incorporated into whatever plans are going to be. We might not get another opportunity. I don't know when that would happen. It certainly seems a convenient point to mention the fact that already you have drainage issues over there. That if you add a buffer, and you haven't mentioned adding a buffer to that side of the property or any screenage at all, but if you do, you will be further impacted because of the drainage issues that already exist. So that's the street view. And then I had a couple more. This is the rear of the property looking towards the street. And the stake is all the way over to the bush on the left. Most of the property in this picture is our property. You can see a little bit to the right, you can see where the edge of our outdoor porch is. But you can see that the building there is, the structures there are already quite compressed. That's one. This is the right-hand side of the property. And I took this only to show that already on the other side of the property, you're quite limited in terms of space. So it really was just to demonstrate that this is not, my property is not the only one that's affected, but overall, the feeling of crowdedness is impacted because of the structure already and its proximity to other structures. That's one. And here we have, this is the rear of the property looking forward. I took a marker, I edited it. And so I drew a straight line from the stake to the street. And so the point that I was making before, which is that some of your foliage is actually mine, is on our property, I think is exemplified by this photograph. There really is a very, very narrow area to work with in there. So I just can't imagine that you're going to be able to put in anything in terms of, a buffer that will screen the air conditioning unit that's supposed to have additional space, or anything very significant to be able to kind of camouflage a little bit what's going on. But you're all the way over on the side yard lot line already, and that's at the widest point. That's not at the 5-foot point. And then that's an additional picture of the same situation. And I think there was one, is that it? I drew a line from the front of your property to the rear where the stake is to show you that the side yard, and that's the 8-foot part or 12-foot part where the air conditioning unit is supposed to go, is a little bit deceiving just from the plans, because you can't really get a visual of just how tight it is until you draw a line between the stake and the front of the house, so you can see just how narrow it is. This is a picture that I took yesterday from a second floor window of mine. And the red line shows where Ken Bryant's property line is to the rear of the applicant's property right now. So the garage is already up against it, and pretty much so is the covered porch. But you want to come out and then go pretty much all the way to that line, which I think is not going to be attractive overall. It looks good in a picture, but the impact on the property itself is really is extremely significant. This is just another picture to demonstrate what the rear lot line of the property looks like. I guess that was it.
Yeah, that was the last one. And we'll call that Exhibit 01.
Thank you, Ms. McDonough. Just a question for Samir and Purvi. Would you object to the inclusion of a condition that calls for a landscape plan to be developed and shared with the city forester to address some of these screening considerations?
No.
No.
Okay. It's a pretty standard request. The board and the forester is sensitive to screening considerations. There were a few noted in his report, and he'll work with you to find something that is suitable for the property and the surrounding, the adjacent properties as well. Okay. Any other members of the public who'd like to share a comment on this application? Okay, hearing and seeing none. Purvi, Samir, anything you'd like to say in summation?
Sure, yeah, I want to thank the board for your time today and listening to our application and your consideration. I want to reiterate that we're really trying to make as minimal possible changes in order to accommodate our family. From what we understand from our neighbors, in fact, the prior owner did not do much to maintain the property, and we're trying to address that at this point by making updates to the exterior, to the interior, to make it a better property, and in fact increase, the value of the neighboring properties as well as a result of that, right? So we're trying to be as cognizant as possible in what we're doing and as considerate as possible in what we're doing. We're just hoping to be able to put a kitchen table in our kitchen, and we're happy to put in screening so that the neighboring properties don't feel that they are too close to ours or able to see into ours. A number of the neighboring properties are already relatively close to ours, and we can see out onto them and they can see out onto us already. And what we are adding isn't really a material change to that. I mean, there's back doors, porches, garages, all quite already adjacent to us, and those are existing conditions. There have been other additions in the area that have brought properties even closer. So we're really just trying to ask for as little as possible to be able to get our kitchen. The garage, I think, and maybe Michael can address this, but we're not looking to increase the size of our garage. I believe in the process of addressing the damage that had occurred to our garage with the trees falling on it, when we have to tear it down, my understanding is according to code, we have to make it the size that we're asking for. We'd be happy with a one-car garage, to be honest, but I believe code requires the garage to be the size that we're proposing. We're not trying to get a bigger garage out of this by any means, and we're certainly not trying to build a townhouse on this property, although funnily enough, the prior owner described the property as being like a Manhattan townhouse on the inside, because it very much is. It's a bunch of small rooms that are interconnected with a lot of old school charm, and we're trying to maintain that as much as possible. And so it's just the two of us and our two kids. We have parents that sometimes come to visit for a day or two. We're nice people. That's all I can say.
Yeah, and we were trying to be mindful of the neighboring properties, right? And so the part that's, I think, closest to 29 Bellevue, where it's about 5 feet, we actually didn't extend that part out. We purposefully went inside from that spot so that we're just going farther south from an interior point, not from the farthest corner that would have given us even more square footage. We were trying to already be mindful for some of the comments that were raised today.
And really just backing into more garages. I mean, our addition is going to look at the back of 2 other garages. I mean, we're not going to have some amazing view overlooking anybody else's house. We're really just trying to have the space there for the kitchen. We wanted the windows because it obviously makes for a nice breakfast nook.
But thanks again, everyone, for
Yeah.
all of your time. Much appreciated.
Thanks very much. All right, Andy, what are the conditions that the board would consider?
All right, I have 4 noted. First, as mentioned, is the usual compliance with all the conditions noted in the board engineer's report. The second is that a stormwater management plan will be submitted to the city engineer for review and approval. Third is that the board is to retain drainage jurisdiction for 2 years. And the fourth and final condition is that a landscape plan is to be submitted to the city forester for review and approval.
And there was some note early in the application about adjusting some of the numbers just to reconcile some of those changes. Does that need to be noted as a condition, or is that just the normal process?
No, that would be reflected in the final variance numbers that are noted in the resolution if it's approved.
Okay. Michael and Michael, does that conform with what you heard and what we discussed?
Yes, it does.
Okay. All right.
Yes, it does.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right. Who would like to open deliberations? Oh, Catherine. I'm giving it to Catherine. She smirked at me. I saw that.
I knew you were going to pick me. This one is a tough one. I can appreciate the neighbors' comments and where they're coming from and and I know that area and how tight the houses are. Having said that, it does seem like a very thoughtful, modest addition that would be an improvement on the house and make the house more livable. So I think I'm in favor of this application. I'm a little bit on the fence about do you need the patio and that kind of thing, but I don't really think the patio is the issue. I think it's the bay window that's the issue. It looks very pretty to me. It looks like it's architecturally keeping with the house and it will be a nice addition. So I think for those reasons, I'm in favor of it. But I do hope that they can come up with a good landscaping plan to possibly screen it more and also address that water issue on the side of the house.
David, yep.
So I've been thinking through this, and it struck me. I looked at this application before we got to the hearing, and the variances themselves, okay, lot coverage, building coverage, FAR, they kind of all usually go together. And you have some, pre-existing nonconformities that are being slightly exacerbated. So when we look at the delta between what is and what will be, it's not a particularly significant increase. And we get into the hearing and a lot of discussion about sight lines and things of that nature. And usually when we have that, we're dealing with setback restriction nonconformities. We don't have that here. Unfortunately, we have a property where there's, I would say, an existing hardship posed on the homeowners and their neighbors by virtue of where the structure itself is situated. So that leads me to look at the asks here and conclude in favor of them. To be honest, I think the conditions we've imposed will render a net benefit, namely the landscaping plan and the stormwater management plan. I expect that the landscaping plan will be thoughtful and provide adequate screening to satisfy the concerns of the neighbors. And the stormwater management plan seems like the regrading proposed certainly will help. And I would imagine when you're renovating a Victorian home, any work you do to the foundation is going to improve any water conditions on the property itself. I remember almost buying a Victorian and then running out of the basement screaming because I knew what it was going to cost me to deal with that basement. So on balance, as long as the applicants adhere to those conditions, I think this will ultimately be a net positive to the neighborhood by virtue of the stormwater management proposed, as well as the landscaping plan around there. So I can support the application.
Thank you, David. Liz, I'd like to add something.
Yeah, it's definitely an undersized lot. And when I walked the property today, there's like literally 3 garages within, eyesight. And I think they're all damaged at this point. But I do appreciate the placement of the new garage. I think it'd be more seamless. I do appreciate the bay windows and restoring the house to its original beauty. So I would be, I would definitely approve this application.
Okay. Any contrary opinions from the board? Okay.
I don't want to be contrary, but I
don't believe that, Joe, but go ahead anyways.
No, actually, what I would like to almost find out is whether or not we can get this landscape plan before we vote. and that the neighbors get a chance to make additional comments based upon what we see at our next meeting or at the next meeting when it's possible to come up, and actually have their input on what we finally come up with.
Thank you, Mr. Steiner. And I think that hints, at least for me, and I hope that message got through loud and clear, is you are new residents to this area. I don't live too far from you over on Woodland. I know David and I are probably about equidistant. So we're, looking forward to having great new neighbors, in this area, and would encourage you to Joe's comment, to take preliminary landscaping plans, buy Kathleen a cup of coffee, get Ken and Nina in the room as well, and get their input into it. I think it would go a long way to hopefully decades of happy home ownership. But adding on that, I would say, in addition to the landscaping plan, what has been mentioned before, the stormwater management improvement, I think is a great addition for this application. As we saw in Ms. McDonough's photos, the standing water in the street just of late is a suggestion that some real work needs to be done, and this is a great opportunity. Unfortunately, probably because you're paying for it, Purvi and Samir, for you guys to do that work, but sorry, it's just how it works. And then the other thing I would add is the undersized lot and the pre-existing nonconformities that David addressed, does put you under, some sort of hardship. So with that, I could support the application and would entertain a motion from the board.
Move to approve.
Have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Chris?
All right, Vice Chairwoman Nook,
Yes.
Mr. Steiner,
Yes.
Mr. Mullen,
Yes.
Ms. Schwartzman,
Yes.
Mr. Malay,
No.
Mr. Voikits,
Yes.
Chairman Spur.
Yes. Okay, thank you and good luck. All right, we're going to take a brief recess here. Michelle, sorry,
Yep.
Thanks for hanging in with us here. Let's take 5-ish minutes, go stretch, and we'll come back. Let's try to at least do Garden Road, and we can talk about trying to maybe begin Cromwell Parkway. So I'll see everyone in 5 minutes. Arlene, are you with us here? Did you sign in?
Yes.
Hi, Eileen. Sorry, it's going a little later than we thought. The One Garden Road should go fairly quick, knock on wood, famous last words. Let's see what we can do for you tonight. We're trying to be sensitive to our court reporter and the rest of the crew. We want to make sure you have a well-rested and attentive board to consider your case. So if we need to, we might need to reschedule your case for the end of June, but let's see how we go here tonight and if the board wants to make it a late night or not.
Okay.
So hang tight.
Yeah, we'll be quick. We could be.
I've heard that before. But no, we'll do our best, but thanks so much for your patience.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, I have Chris. We'll wait for Michelle. She's the star of our show.
That's interesting.
Joe, you're off mute just in case. Yeah.
Yes, I know.
Okay. I didn't know what next was going to come out of your mouth.
I have a whole new setup here with all new cameras and stuff, and every once in a while it does something. I'm going like, wow.
I was going to say, it took a couple years off that mug of yours. So there you go. Pam must be happy. All right, Michelle, thanks for hanging in with us here. You're good?
Yep, I'm good.
All right.
Yeah, I'm good.
Let's resume then with One Garden Road, Lisa and Daniel Kessler. Where are you, Lisa and Daniel?
Hi, everybody.
Hello, good evening. All right, we're going to swear you in, Lisa and Daniel, either or both of you, and we'll ask you to begin your application.
Okay.
Either of you that are testifying, if you could raise your right hand.
Oh, sure. I guess both of us.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yes.
And please, one at a time, state your name, spell your last name.
Okay. Lisa Kessler, Kessler.
And Daniel Kessler, Kessler. A little quicker.
Thank you.
Wonderful. All right, you just tell us a little bit about your application, and then we can move to your architect.
Sure. So thanks everyone for staying late for us. We hope this will be quick. We moved to Summit and bought our house 7 years ago. We have 2 kids. We live on Garden Road and in a 3-bedroom house. And what we realized as our kids were getting older over the last 7 years, we started feeling like we just needed a little bit more space, and especially over the last year while we've both been working from home. So, and kids, doing remote schooling, et cetera. And we thought about maybe moving within Summit, but we really just love our house. We love our block. Garden Road is a dead end, so like a cul-de-sac. And we just really decided that the best route would be to look into just doing some improvements in our current house. And so we met with Janet, our architect, and we want to just talk to you about a couple things that we want to do in the house. to just make it a little bit, you know, a little bit more livable for us, especially as our families getting older.
All right. Any questions from the board for the applicants? Hearing and seeing none. All right, let's jump over to your architect. Andy, do the honors.
If you could raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name.
Janet Siegel, S-I-E-G-E-L, architect.
Thank you. And if you could briefly describe your background, experience, in 3 boards you've appeared before.
Sure. I am been practicing architecture as a licensed professional for 30 years, based in Madison. I have recently presented before Chatham Borough in Madison also, and then Morris Township and many other surrounding areas.
Thank you. And assuming no questions, the board will likely accept your credentials at this point.
We will accept your credentials. You may proceed, Janet.
Oh, great. I'm going to do a screen share. This is the plans that we have submitted. I have 3 other quick exhibits that I'll add in as we start talking, but I just want to focus quickly on the site plan. It's an interesting piece of property basically because it's on the corner. And with that initial conversation with the councilors was that we needed a variance because they did want to get a better access from entering the property, which is the side yard, which we're looking at Pine Grove. Their front of their house faces Garden Road. The other additional area that so we're kind of going clockwise around the space. The entryway from the Pine Grove was the initial area we talked about. Getting a proper cover over the front of the house, which allows for their guests to come in with a cover which doesn't have anything over the front door now. And then as you go around to the left side of the property, a second floor, which is the bedroom they just spoke about. And then in getting that bedroom with the access, there's an extension that's cantilevered, which worked perfectly over the back doors. So kind of touched every wall of the outside of the house and tried to do that with some consistency, some contextual elements that work well with the house overall. With those improvements, if you can see where my cursor is, the property based with the 2 front yards is a 35-foot setback from Pine Grove. It is a front yard, but we're calling it front yard, side yard. The front yard here is 35. The existing house is at 39.9. And then the other side yard is a 15-foot setback. And the existing sun porch that has been enclosed is over, and we are completely going over that same space. And then only extending a 1-foot overhang, and that actually gave some dimension to the front elevation. The rear piece that is a cantilevered extension is the conforming piece of our proposal tonight. So in moving forward over to the chart, the front yard, and I had to separate all this, so this will go through it very quickly. The front yard Pine Grove side porch, the original, the setback on that is 35. The original side porch is right here in the dotted line. That was 26.5. What we are constructing is going to be 22.8. And the side yard setback is 15 on the other side of the property, and 11.5 is where the existing structure is, and we're building over that. And just to make a note that they had recently got a 2014, I think, or the slate patio was also a variance from previous, where they also got the same 11.5 to align it with the existing structure. So that has been a variance for just that this distance here for the side patio. The maximum lot coverage, the allowable for this property is 35%. The current property is 35.4. And what our increase is actually only 62 square feet. And that is putting us at the variance for 1% over on lot coverage. The maximum building coverage, we are conforming. Floor area ratio, we are conforming. So we really did work with the numbers, trying to keep this at a minimal request. And I'll quickly go through the the existing plans. It is a pretty simple, simple layout. The garage is curious because it is, you literally, and if you were able to go by the property, you enter from Pine Grove and do a pretty deep dive into the basement garage. It is a 16-foot wide garage door. So functionally, I'm assuming meant to be a 2-car. It is a really functioning, nice 1-car with the way the stairs are aligned. The second floor is, the first floor is well maintained, elegantly done. They've recently done the kitchen, and this is an area that a lot of family living happens because they did take down the more formal dining room wall. This area here is just a covered outside portico. It is the predominant way they come in the house. Our proposal here is to make that a more contemporary solution of the mudroom, which we're seeing in many, many homes. The addition upstairs, this is the 3-bedroom now, and adding the 1-bedroom, there's a logical choice in extending out over these doors, which allows for this larger bedroom upstairs. So those are the existing conditions. The basement, just showing you the proposed. This is the only masonry work involved, will be at the front of the house, making it very easy access for the masonry work to happen. The rest of this work is just framing. So kind of keeping that pretty easy as far as site disturbance. The first floor, the really only issue here that's going to be affected is we're trying to just enclose a window here in the kitchen, and the rest of this is added on. The sidewalk is just a continuation of the original sidewalk, turning it slightly, easily stepping up to a covered area, mudroom, closet, and then walking in the same way they come in, but at much ease for children and adults coming in and out, lots of area for all of the storage for coats and shoes and boots and things. The other area to be affected on the first floor is just a bracketed portico, so no effect of the existing stoop, easily bracketing a portico that allows for guests, packages, anything coming will be safely dealt with on the front stoop. The second floor is showing that this, where the new bedroom is over the existing. We did a purposeful lower plate heights on either front and back, so that it's somewhat feels like a dormered area. There is one dormer here with the window, which is very much in keeping with the other dormers on the street, to allow for the new bedroom over. This wall stays, so this bedroom maintains its front to back distance, the new hallway, and therefore promoting the idea that a overhang here, not trying to go past 3 feet, 2'7" is a nice proportion where we can get some nice brackets underneath, perfectly aligned with the doors below. So it really makes a lot of sense on the back elevation. And then in enhancing this overall house, when you have a 3-bedroom and then you have a master suite, what we felt was in keeping up with, again, with what is in current trend, is to expand the master closet, which still puts a new closet in on this bedroom. So it really, these bathrooms are recently done, up to date. Again, they've maintained the house beautifully, so it is really just enhancing it more to get the extra bedroom in. They're calling it an office. It still has the ability to be called a bedroom with a closet, but for their purposes, it's the smallest room and will be very useful for their whole lifestyle on the second floor. The front elevation, the new portico, the bracketed portico, the second floor addition with the dormer. Again, the plates heights are low to keep the volume down, not trying to align these roof lines. And then the small addition, 1-story. There was contemplation of making that 2, and for many reasons, bulk. And then when you look at what's going on the second floor, we were able to manage getting that closet in another way by reutilizing square footage that existed. What we'll call the rear, this is directly behind the front door. This shows the side, the mudroom. Shows this, like I said, the deep dive into the basement garage. These doors exist. This is the new bracketed piece that's the addition that creates the full-size bedroom above. And this is the new addition. Also broke this here, set this wall back. Again, so that bulk of the back of the house has some variation and some movement. 2 side views. This is the side view, the most important, I think, relative to this approval. which is the front yard setback on Pine Grove, sorry. And we went through a couple of ways of how to do this, but we felt the open porch was the best. There'll still be a view from the kitchen similar to what they have now, the mudroom in this section, easy access stairs, and then off to the same path that gets to their driveway now. The side view, which is from garden, will be, this exists now, and this line here, if you can see it, is the line of the previous roof line going above, again, breaking both planes, this one going over so that we could get a nice clean dormer in, and this wall setting back, so we're able to again get a break here, and then what you're seeing beyond is the cantilever piece. So those are the plans. Are there any questions on the plans? Just kind of walking through quickly. I do have these two exhibits, I actually 2 and 3, I have exhibit 1, but I'll show you this very quickly. This is just a superimposed existing view. This is from Pine Grove. This is the existing portico, and then I've just taken some proportions with the photograph and worked in what this portico will look like. And then you can see in the back, this is the overhang, which is the bedroom added. The points here are with the site plan shown, I didn't actually point it out, they have a lot of coverage up this corner, and they plan to do 2 different planting beds, not official at this point what they're actually going to be, but maintaining what is along that street line. So this is very important, I think, just to see what the impact of the proportions on Pine Grove. My other piece to share.
Janet, sorry, just to pause. These are new additions. This is new.
Yes,
Use a new exhibit.
Exhibit 3, original photo, and exhibit 2, which was perspective from Garden Road.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would recommend just marking the whole series of photos as A1 if that's acceptable to the board.
Is acceptable to the board.
Okay. I'm going to pull up another share. And I think this will, this is just the tax map. So the 200-foot Garden Road, one Garden Road. Here's our property. And just one of the
sharing,
points,
Janet, sorry.
Oh, sorry, I have to hit the word share. Sorry, here we are.
Thanks.
Okay. And are you seeing the 200-foot map?
We are, thank you.
Okay, great. So one of the things I want to point out, I think, is just a unique way this zoning of the areas and Summit worked out. They are in the R15, and the line for R15 goes in, it encompasses their property, so they are in the R15. The R6 zone is on the other side. And it is interesting because the opposite property to Garden is actually a more developed piece of property. Actually, I did the work on that many, many years ago. So I'm pretty familiar with it, but it is rather developed, a complete mirror image, and it is falling in the other zone. That R6 actually has a 25-foot setback versus a 35, has an 8-foot setback versus the 15. Both of those would have put us not quite on the front yard conforming, but much closer. But the lot coverage is also very interesting. The R6 has a 40% lot coverage, and we are working with a 35% lot coverage, and we would have been conforming on that. So just an interesting caveat of how this got developed. But the other thing I wanted to show here is in analyzing this street coming down, and this is these green areas that I've shown are complete coverage as you're driving down Garden or walking. There is very little view into these properties, and I have photos quickly to share on that also. And we are planning to have an additional line of plants here, and they already have some coverage in the corner, and their driveway comes in. The blue lines I have shown are driveways. So it's just interesting how this line, this area here is probably 1900, 1910 homes. Across the street, maybe 1920, 1930s. And as you come back down to the bottom of the street, we get into that 1920, 1930s homes. Garden Road is all about 1940s, 1950s, which of which their house is, and so is the neighbors. So this area has its own feel, kind of split levels as you get further down here. But what we are addressing is that the fronts of these homes are both on Garden and on Glen Oaks. So we are dealing with side yards and feel like we've really tried to address with our landscaping and with a elegant portico, which is going to be very similar to a lot of the houses along this run, which do have some extensions, one-story extensions on the front of their homes. So that piece is helpful. And this last piece here are some photos, starting with the Pine Grove view and on the opposite side of the street. So again, the corner lot, which is Colonial, running down Pine Grove, once all the way down. These are on the opposite side of the street. They are closer. They are in the R6. Each one of these are closer to the street. And then as you get to the Glen Oaks corner, it's one of those houses that is completely covered. So Pine Grove does have an interesting run. There's many fully foliaged street fronts. And then
Janet, we're just going to introduce this as Exhibit A2.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks.
It has 3 pages, so I'll just roll to the next page on the one PDF there. This is a view of the Garden Road. So their house is here. And then as you're going up the street, there's a split level, which has been added on to. So where we are adding our addition, they already have a 2-story. You're going down the street, there's a split level, and a split level. Each one of these driveways are independent. They're not side by side. On the other side of the street, this is directly across from the Kesslers. This is a house that's very similar. It has already, in the matching mirror, as I said, it was a very mirrored house, has the 2nd story. And we actually did do a similar step down of the plate height and put a dormer. And as you go up the street, these are actually another, this is a 1.5-story split level, a full 2-story, probably a full add level at some point. And all of these have garages facing the house. So kind of its own neighborhood here. And as they said, it's quiet, it's a cul-de-sac. There's some pluses there. So in between here, I think I skipped over. Let me just get back to that middle. This one here. This is the side of where our this is the Kessler's home. As you can see, it just has the small portico. We'll be putting a larger portico here. Their neighbor to the right has a bit of a portico. This is a much older home, very long, deep lot. These are the houses along here that are completely covered, very hard to find, very kind of English garden feel. The driveway is sort of the way in, and then you turn and get into this property. The next one at 111 is very concealed, and 105. And on the opposite side of the street, this is, again, the side view of 2 Garden, where they did an extension out the back also. So it's actually a more developed property. They also dive into the big garage. The next house is a 1-story, kind of a one-off, a very unusual house for the rest of the neighborhood. And then a 2-story, 1940s, 1950s, and then back to a standard 2-story. So again, the neighborhood is varied. But again, a lot of foliage, a lot of green foliage too. So it's something that we're going to attempt to do on our addition. So just to cover some points, it's a minimal impact on the lot, easy access for construction because it's mainly framing. We only have masonry on the front portion. They are planning on planting for the screening. The portico on the front provides a safe entrance for guests. The mudroom update is minimal to what's current in standard homes, but it is keeping up with what is happening and providing a safe way to get in as they come in and do not come in through the garage. They park at the higher level, come in the house every day. They'll have a small covered area, able to get in the house cleanly. The 2nd floor, we kept down the bulk by using the lower plate heights. We're similar in scope to the neighbors. The adjacent home, where we are adding our 2nd floor, is that they've already added their 2nd floor on that side of the property. The side yard was granted previously with the driveway. With the
patio.
With patio, yes, thank you. That's why they're here. And so the shed is something that I believe Krista mentioned, and they are willing to remove the shed, which is toward the front of the property, highly screened, but that is something that didn't come up on the comments. There were no engineering comments, just so de minimis, adding only 62 square feet. Obviously, smoke alarms moves on with my drawings as we get into construction documents. The Historic Preservation gave it an okay, and the Environmental Commission, you know, as always, asked us to consider solar, permeable pavers, and native trees. And so those were the comments back from the town. And with these points, I believe we've done our best in providing a proposal that's sensitive to town. I think they're really maintaining the character of the house and leaving as much open space left to the lot and trying to do their civic duty to do a very contextual design. And we hope you can consider that for us.
Was there any consideration, Krista made a point about a gravel area, non-conforming gravel area to the right of the driveway?
Yes, we did. We actually saw that comment, yes, and I did calculate because it was noted, but it wasn't noted as coverage. And I'm assuming, as she was saying, if it was noted as coverage, we had the Kesslers update their survey from when the information we got when we started was the hand-drawn patio, so they could get the permit for, or the variance for it. So we went back to the same surveyor and they did update it with the actual patio drawn, and it showed gravel, but it didn't get calculated in the lot coverage. And if we did calculate that, we would be at 39.6, because that gravel area is 382 square feet. And we just did that after we only got Krista's note like 2 days ago. So just looking at that, that would put us at 39.6. If there's we're currently 1% over on lot coverage, that would put us obviously 4.6 over. The other option that we've talked to the Kesslers about is that whole area that you're seeing is with a shed and a slate patio. Let me go back to that. That area is, open this real quick. Are you seeing my screen?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. This area right here, if that were removed, because the gravel is an area that doesn't grow plants, they have no intention of paving. It's just kind of what is naturally seems to be the best for that surface.
It was like trees, the roots of the trees. You couldn't grow any grass there, so it was kind of just like dirt and rocks. So we just put some gravel down to make it look a little bit neater. But in the corner where there's just these pavers that are placed down on the ground, they're not even like in the ground, they were just there when we bought the house. We can easily, you know, remove all those pavers because we have a lot of landscaping over there. And the shed is actually just a little plastic. It's not really a shed. It's like a little container. It's 4 feet high. So it's all easily, that whole little corner is pretty easy to remove if that would help with the the coverage.
And if we did that,
it's not a stationary shed,
Yeah.
really, and nor is the slate patio was there with the previous owner, basically, even though it wasn't on the previous.
It wasn't on the previous.
So maybe, Andy, what we would write the condition is to remove the shed and return the adjacent ground to a natural condition or something to that effect, if that makes sense.
If we still counted the gravel as coverage, if that's where the numbers we want to play out, I can give you that total. The net would be an increase in this proposal of 222, which would put us 2.1 over on lot coverage, not 1%.
Okay, great.
Just to make sure all the numbers are right, the final request for lot coverage variance would be 37.1%.
38.1, sorry. Oh, I'm saying 2.1 additional. So it would be 38.1.
Okay, 38.1, got it. Thank you.
So that would clarify that the gravel is staying and the slate patio and shed would be removed.
Okay, great. Any questions? Mr. Dower, you didn't provide a formal engineering review. Anything catch your eye on this that you want to address?
No, it's a de minimis increase in lot coverage, so there's no requirement for any stormwater improvements.
Okay, great. Any questions from members of the board? No? All right. Claire's vigorous no, I'll take on behalf of the entire board. All right. Well, we don't need to beat this one to death. It is pretty de minimis, and thank you for the good testimony there. I don't believe there's any member of the public here hiding in the shadows. If you are, reveal yourself now. Any questions or comments you'd like to offer for this application? Hearing and seeing no members of the public. Anything you'd like to say in conclusion before we move to deliberations?
I would just thank you for your time and thank you for extending your time tonight for us. We appreciate
Yes,
that.
thank you.
Yes, thanks a
We're
lot.
really excited about the project. So
We
we appreciate
didn't think it would
it.
happen, but
No problem. All right, Andy, I think the only condition is the removal of the shed, but tell me otherwise.
Yeah, well, the usual compliance with the conditions noted in the board engineer's report. And then the only other condition is that the applicant is to remove the non-compliant shed or storage container and the pavers in the corner of the property.
Okay. And though to note, there is no engineer's letter. It's, I suppose, the engineer's report or memo or something. It just need to be phrased a little differently. But that can be cleaned up with the resolutions. Okay. With that, who'd like to start off the deliberations? Let's ask Claire to do it. It's not that late. Come on. There you go.
My cursor has been this computer's been a little wonky tonight. As they say, it is minimal. The only thing I could possibly add to what the architect said is her rendering of the view from Pine Grove. The back slight cantilevered overhang actually breaks up the mass of the house as you look at it, and I think that makes it more attractive. So that's a plus for me. I certainly can support this application.
Anyone like to add anything else, pro or con? All right, I'll only say that, yeah, it's a relatively de minimis request, very thoughtfully designed, with no apparent negative impact on neighboring properties, any infringement of light, air, or space. And could see myself approving the application for those reasons. One particular point that stuck out to me is, though small, the addition of the portico does allow for safe entry of guests, which is certainly a benefit not just to the property, but to those that will be accessing it. So with it, I will entertain a motion for the application.
And I'll move.
Thank you. Move to approve. Yep. And Liz will second. All right, Chris.
Vice Chairman Nook,
Yes.
Mr. Steiner,
Yes.
Mr. Mullen,
Yes.
Mr. Schwartzstein,
Yes.
Mr. Malay,
Yes.
Likets,
Yes.
and Chairman Spur.
Yes. All right. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
time. Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you. All right, Arlene, I'm going to be a bad guy here. I see my board fading. I feel bad. I'm sorry. We're nearing 11 o'clock. We have a couple of administrative matters we need to address. What we would do is we would move you to June 21st and hear you along with one larger application and another residential application. So I appreciate your patience. Sorry, some of those earlier cases we didn't anticipate taking as long as they did. But I want to give you a well-rested and attentive board, or even we get a little grumpy late in the evening. So we want to get you a fair hearing tonight. Okay.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you for your understanding. If you have any questions, reach out to Chris. He'll help you along the way.
Thank you.
All right, Chris, let's wrap up resolutions and minutes and then everyone can go to bed.
Yeah, before we do, I think we should just move to carry 621 without further notice if the board desires.
We have a motion. Thank you, David.
I'll move, assuming that they're giving us additional time.
with which to act. We just need your okay, Arlene, to carry you to that 6/21 date.
Yes.
Thank you very much. So that was David to motion and Joe to second.
Correct. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none.
Okay. All right. Let's do resolutions and minutes.
Yeah. First resolution is 29 Waldron Ave, application ZB-21-2041. Eligible voting members are Vice Chairwoman Newell, Mr. Steiner, Mr. Malay, Mr. Loikitz, Ms. Toth. Somebody like to move that?
So moved.
Second.
All right, Vice Chairwoman Newell,
Yes.
Mr. Steiner,
Yes.
Mr. Malay,
Yes.
Mr. Loikitz,
Yes.
and Ms. Toth.
Yes.
All right, next is 120 Hobart Avenue, application ZB-21-2044. Eligible voting members are Vice Chairwoman Newell, Mr. Steiner, Mr. Malay, Mr. Loikitz, and Ms. Toth. And need a motion as well.
I'll move.
Second.
Go ahead, the second.
Steiner.
Thank you. All right, Vice Chairwoman Newell,
Yes.
Mr. Steiner,
Yes.
Mr. Malay,
Yes.
Mr. Loikitz,
Yes.
Ms. Toth.
Yes.
All right, next is 26 and 32 Ashwood Avenue. Application is ZB-21-2047. Eligible voting members are Chairman Spur, Vice Chairwoman Newell, Mr. Loikitz, and Ms. Toth. And we need a motion for that as well.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Chairman Spur,
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman Newell,
Yes.
Mr. Loikitz,
Yes.
and Ms. Toth.
Yes.
All right, and last is 39 Park Avenue, application ZB-20-2026. Eligible voting members are Chairman Spur, Vice Chairwoman Newell, Mr. Steiner, Mr. Mullen, Mr. Malay, and Mr. Loikitz. And we need a motion for that.
So moved.
Steiner.
All right, second.
All right. Chairman Spur,
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman Newell,
Yes.
Steiner,
Yes.
Mr. Mullen,
Yes.
Mr. Malay,
Yes.
and Mr. Loikitz.
Yes.
All right, we have two sets of minutes for tonight. April 5th is the first, and we need a motion and second for that.
Motion to approve the minutes. April 5th minutes.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. And April 15th is the next set of minutes. We need a motion to approve those as well.
Motion to approve the April 15th minutes.
And a second.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
All right, with that, we are adjourned. See you all June 7th. Thank you very much for your patience tonight. All right.